Chapter 578. She immediately touched Xiaobao's head and argued, "How old is he? He's only 5 years old. What Xiaobao needs now is not to grow up, but to return to 4 years old, 3 years old, 2 years old, to learn how to be a child." Lu Tingxiao sighed and softened his tone. "I'm afraid your hands will be tired." Then he paused and said in a low voice, "Are you going now?" She looked at the time on her phone. "Yes, it's almost time." Lu Tingxiao's eyes changed several times before he finally calmed down. "Go ahead, be careful." "I know Ning." She put Xiaobao down and gave him a big hug as usual. Outside the CEO's office, a supervisor was holding a stack of documents in his arms, shaking his legs while taking out a quick-acting cardioplegia to get ready to go in. Behind him, Lu Jingli put his hand on the man's shoulder and shook his head with a sigh. "Don't take it out. Even a quick-acting cardioplegia can't save you. With my brother's condition today, you'll die if you go in now." The supervisor turned his head and looked at the man as if he was mourning. "Second young master, save me. You deserve it. You dared to slack off when my brother was in a good mood. Now you're in trouble." Lu Jingli complained mercilessly. He didn't even think about the fact that he was an expert at slacking off. It was just that he was lucky that he wasn't caught this time. "Second young master, I have a family to take care of. My wife is about to give birth to a second child." The supervisor almost knelt down. "Fuck. Are you trying to provoke me?" Lu Jingli was furious. "How dare I? That's not what I meant," the supervisor said bitterly. Why did even second young master look like he had taken gunpowder today? Lu Jingli snorted a few times. Looking at his unlucky face, he kindly said, "Don't go in today and court death. My brother doesn't have the mood to care about your stupid matter. Hurry up and go back to work on your plan." Yes, I'll go right away. "Thank you, second young master." The supervisor left gratefully. Lu Jingli pushed open the door and entered the office. There was a tatami placed by the window in the office, obviously for Xiaobao to look at his Aunt Xiaoxi. The corner of Lu Jingli's mouth twitched. Now that he could see her every day, why did she still look like she was longing for his return? She looked at her brother again. He was sitting in front of his desk with a serious expression. He was holding a fountain pen in his right hand and a few documents in his left hand. He looked like he was working hard, but his expression showed that he had already gone on a mental journey. Lu Jingli coughed lightly. "Brother, are you sure you want to continue pretending to be virtuous? If he continued to pretend to be a wife, she would be gone. I say, you're really something. Just use a little trick to stop that she-brat from going." Lu Tingxiao glanced at him. "Do you think she wouldn't have guessed that I was the one who did it? Moreover, doing this would not solve the root of the problem. How about I help you find a woman to pretend to be that kid's ex-girlfriend or something to cause trouble? Wouldn't 1111 be able to leave in this way?" Lu Jingli continued to help him come up with ideas. No. The possibility of being exposed on the spot was very high. As cautious as Lu Tingxiao was, he naturally wouldn't use any flawed strategies. "This won't work, and that won't work. What should we do?" "Brother, I'm not trying to scare you. Although 1111 said she was just going to explain, what if the other party happens to be the type that 1111 likes? Everything is possible," Lu Jingli said earnestly. Chapter 579. Lu Tingxiao put down the pen in his hand, tapped the table with his fingers, and slowly looked at his son on the tatami opposite him. Lu Jingli followed Lu Tingxiao's gaze and asked, "Well, brother, what do you want to do?" Lu Tingxiao got up, walked towards his son, and said, "Xiaobao, I want to take you out for dinner." Lu Jingli said, "Well, brother, are you going to, damn it?" He was not satisfied with all the ideas he had thought of just now, but his own idea was to take nuclear weapons with Xiaobao. Very good, he was a big devil. However, a certain nuclear weapon didn't seem to cooperate well. Hearing Papa's words, Xiaobao was completely indifferent and wrote a word on the writing board, full. Auntie Xiaoxi had already fed him before leaving, and she cooked the dishes herself. Lu Tingxiao pinched his eyebrows and said, "I want to take you to see Auntie Xiaoxi." Within 3 seconds, Xiaobao put down his little hand that was holding his chin and looking out of the window, rolled down the tatami, put on his little shoes, ran to Papa, and opened his little short hands. Lu Tingxiao, Lu Jingli. Nuclear weapons were so easy to control. Seeing that the father and son were ready to set off, Lu Jingli wagged his tail and followed them decisively. I want to eat too. Yes, eat. Half an hour later, in a stylish Japanese restaurant. There was a low table for eating in a Japanese restaurant. Guests took off their shoes and then sat on the ground. The dim light gave people a sense of relaxation. The person Ningxi was waiting for hadn't arrived yet, so she ordered a cup of sake with a low alcohol content and drank it by herself while waiting for them. She didn't notice that just behind her, the big and small devils and Lu Jingli had all arrived. After entering the box, Xiaobao recognized Auntie Xiaoxi by her back and was about to run to her. Lu Tingxiao stopped his son and said, "No." Xiaobao's little face was tense, and his face was full of why not. "You promised to take me to see Auntie Xiaoxi." Lu Tingxiao glanced at his son and said, "I took you to see Auntie Xiaoxi, but you can only see her." "Xiaobao. I've been tricked." After being taken to the seat behind Aunt Xiaoxi, Xiaobao looked unhappy. However, because Aunt Xiaoxi was right in front of him and he could see her as soon as he looked up, his mood instantly became much better. After sitting down, Lu Jingli looked at Ningxi, who was sitting alone opposite him. "TSK, TSK, TSK, didn't little 1111 say that we have an appointment at 7 o'clock? It's already 7:10. You're late for your first date. Points deducted. Although I haven't seen that Shi Shiqing, I don't think is a strong competitor. There shouldn't be a chance for me to make a move." About 10 minutes later, Ningxi had almost drunk a pot of wine, but she still hadn't arrived. Lu Jingli, who was behind him, suddenly felt a little dispirited. "Don't tell me he's not coming. To think we were so nervous for so long." As soon as he finished speaking, the curtain in front of them was lifted by a white and slender finger, and then a man in a plain suit came in. The man had short hair that was as black as ink and a tall figure. His appearance wasn't the stunning type, but his temperament was gentle and refined. It was easy for others to have a good impression of him and trust him. The most special thing about him was that he had an otherworldly feeling that was detached from the secular world. Just a glance at him would cause others to calm down and be in a peaceful Buddhist realm. "Oh my God, he's the best." The moment he saw the man, Lu Jingli suddenly had an ominous premonition. Chapter 580. Buddha, please don't let this person be. Lu Jingli was just about to say that he hoped this person wasn't Shi Shiqing when he heard Lu Tingxiao say, "Shi Shiqing." Lu Jingli was dumbfounded. Fuck. It can't be. Is he really Shi Shiqing? His Shi Shiqing? While he was still in shock, he saw the man take off his shoes and politely tell the waiter that he had an appointment. Then, he followed the waiter straight towards Ningxi's direction. "Hello, Miss Ning." Ningxi had already finished her first pot and was drinking the restaurant's special cherry blossom wine. When she heard someone talking to her and the voice was very comfortable, she subconsciously raised her head. After seeing the man in front of her, Ningxi was obviously startled for a moment before she reacted. She stood up and said, "Yes, I'm Ningxi." "Mr. Shi?" The man nodded. "Hello, Shi Shiqing. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting." "It's fine. Have a seat." "I didn't wait long." Ningxi sat down again nonchalantly. Shi Shiqing took off his suit jacket and put it on the hanger beside him. Then, he sat on the ground. Shi Shiqing's sitting posture was very standard. On the other hand, Ningxi, a girl should usually kneel down properly, but she didn't. She sat boldly and boldly. One of her legs was bent, and the hand on the same side casually rested on her knee. She was more manly than a man. But even so, she didn't give off the impression of being rude. She was wearing wide-legged pants and her favorite embroidered motorcycle jacket. She gave off a free and easy vibe just by sitting there. She didn't have the constricting vibe of a Japanese restaurant at all. Ningxi had heard from her grandfather that the Shi family was a literary family, so the descendants of the Shi family should prefer educated, gentle, and pleasant women. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, she did the opposite and specially dressed like this today. However, her plan didn't seem to work. After Shi Shiqing saw her, not only did he not feel disgust or contempt, but a trace of imperceptible admiration flashed across his eyes. Behind her, Lu Jingli was already shouting anxiously, "It's over, it's over." Could it be that the two of them fell for each other? Did you notice the look in Xiao 1111's eyes when she got up and saw Shi Shiqing? She was obviously stunned for a moment. She was obviously stunned. Moreover, Shi Shiqing looked at 1111 with admiration in his eyes. Damn it, wasn't he supposed to like the pretty daughter of a humble family? Our 1111 is dressed so provocatively today. Lu Tingxiao took a sip of tea. His expression was still calm. If one didn't look at his tightened lips and the strength of his fingers that were gradually turning white as he gripped the teacup, Lu Jingli was still scratching his ears and cheeks as he analyzed, this Shi Shiqing is a little tricky. Although he's not as handsome as this young master, his aura is really special. Even from a man's point of view, it's very attractive. People couldn't help but want to get to know and befriend him. What's even more frightening is that, with little 1111's relatively unruly character, there is a great possibility that she will fall in love with someone like Shi Shiqing, who is the complete opposite of her character. Crack. The teacup in Lu Tingxiao's hand broke into pieces. Lu Jingli swallowed his saliva. No. I was just guessing. That was impossible. Didn't 1111 say that she already had someone she liked? She won't fall in love with Shi Shiqing. As soon as his voice fell, his brother's face obviously turned even uglier. Chapter 581. Lu Jingli shut his mouth and no longer dared to speak. In such a situation, anything he said was too dangerous. On the other side, Ningxi and Shi Shiqing had already begun to talk. Although there was some distance between them, the restaurant was quite quiet. If one listened carefully, one could hear what they were talking about. Because he was late, Shi Shiqing felt that he should explain the reason out of basic courtesy, so he said, "I'm really sorry. I saw an old man fall on the way, so I sent him to the hospital, so I wasted some time." Ningxi could not help but laugh when she heard this. If any other man were to say this to me, I would definitely think that there was something wrong with his IQ. Even the excuse he made was so insincere, but I believe in your words, Mr. Shi. You really look like the kind of person who would help an old lady cross the road and send a lost child home. Shi Shiqing couldn't help but laugh. Miss Ning, are you saying that I look like a good person? Ningxi nodded. More than that. Not only is he a good person, but he's also at the level of Golden Cicada. His Tripitaka, you know? Shi Shiqing didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her interesting description. His eyes darkened. Miss Ning, you are very interesting. Ningxi's heart skipped a beat when she heard that. It was the first time she had seen such a special person. She couldn't help but flirt with him casually. Thus, he coughed lightly and quickly got down to business. It's like this, Mr. Shi, I'll get straight to the point. Actually, I don't have any intention of going on a blind date, but grandfather has already arranged for me to make an appointment with you, so I have no choice but to come here and explain the situation to you. I hope I can gain your understanding. Shi Shiqing didn't seem to be angry or dissatisfied when he heard this, but something seemed to fall from the depths of his eyes. Behind her, Lu Jingli heard Ningxi's words and suddenly pricked up his ears. He finally regained some energy and said, "Good job, little 1111. You KO'd him." Hearing Ningxi's words, Shi Shiqing immediately expressed his understanding. "I understand. Although it's a pity, I respect your wishes." Hearing this, Ningxi raised her eyebrows slightly. A little regret. Was he interested in her? No way. There wasn't a single part of her body that matched this man's taste today, right? He was probably just being polite, right? Oh, this type of man is possible. So, you don't have to feel pressured. Let's just treat this as a meal between friends, okay? Shi Shiqing said. Ningxi suddenly realized something. Although this man's looks weren't stunning, his voice was too fucking nice. It was simply Sue. Since the other party had said so and was so cooperative, Ningxi naturally couldn't refuse. Of course. Behind him, Lu Jingli bit into a piece of salmon. Damn it. I've misjudged. She had thought that he was a holy monk who didn't lust after women, but it turned out that he was also lustful. In such a situation, if there's no meaning in it, he should just pay the bill and leave. He actually wants to have a meal together, and even said that he's a friend. He's obviously up to something. Lu Jingli kept complaining, and Lu Tingxiao didn't look too good either. Xiaobao, who was admiring Xiaoxi's back, finally realized something was wrong. Well, why was Aunt Xiaoxi eating with another uncle she didn't know? Xiaobao pursed his lips, thought for a moment, and then wrote 2 words on the writing board: date. Chapter 582. Xiaobao pursed his lips, thought for a while, and then wrote 2 words on the writing board: date. If he didn't understand, he would humbly ask for advice. Was Aunt Xiaoxi on a date? Lu Tingxiao and Lu Jingli looked at the question on Xiaobao's writing board at the same time. Lu Jingli sighed and looked at Xiaobao as if looking at a poor child who was about to be abandoned by his mother. Baby, this is more terrible than a date. This is called a blind date. Do you know what it means? Xiaobao shook his head honestly. A blind date is one of the traditional wedding etiquette in China. It is also called a matchmaking ceremony, an interview, and a face-to-face meeting. It is usually arranged by a matchmaking agency or a human resources department, a family, or a matchmaker, and then the parents of the 2 parties meet and discuss the marriage. Lu Jingli explained a little, but Xiaobao still looked innocent and didn't understand, so Lu Jingli had to say something. A blind date means that your Aunt Xiaoxi is going to be taken away by another man. She is going to have another baby with another man. The moment Lu Jingli finished his words, Xiaobao's little face fell. Aunt Xiaoxi is going to have another baby with another man, another baby, another baby. Poor Xiaobao's mind was completely occupied by these words, and without any warning, he began to burst into tears within a second and couldn't stop. Lu Jingli just wanted to tease him, but he didn't expect that it would go too far. Seeing Xiaobao crying like this, he immediately panicked. Hey, baby, don't cry. Lu Tingxiao glanced at Lu Jingli like a knife, and then pulled Xiaobao to his side. A blind date is just a way for men and women to get to know each other. It's far from marriage, not to mention that she has just refused him. Now she is just having a meal with him. Lu Tingxiao explained patiently. However, Xiaobao was so hurt just now that he couldn't listen to anything at all. His tears flowed like a river, and he cried so hard that he almost couldn't breathe. Lu Tingxiao and Lu Jingli, 2 big men who didn't know how to coax children at all, looked at Xiaobao who was crying so hard, and were confused. On the other side, Ningxi still had no idea what kind of earth-shattering thing had happened behind her. He had just drunk 2 pots of wine. Although the alcohol content was not high, he was still a little tipsy. In addition, Shi Shiqing's temperament was too much of a cheat. It was too easy to let people down, so he could not help but relax. While drinking and eating sashimi, he chatted with Shi Shiqing about some safe topics. Are you in the jewelry business? It just so happens that I'm starting a fashion studio recently, and I will definitely need jewelry and other accessories. At that time, I will shamelessly ask you for help. Ningxi suddenly had the responsibility of being a boss, and took the opportunity to pull in business. Miss Ning is too serious. You can contact me at any time if you need anything. After chatting for a while, Shi Shiqing asked, Miss Ning, I don't know if you remember, but many years ago, we met once. Hearing this, Ningxi sobered up a little. Really? It doesn't make sense that I don't have any impression of you even though I've seen you before. After all, Shi Shiqing was quite a special person. Hearing this, Shi Shiqing took a sip of wine, and his eyes wavered as he said, at that time, your eyes were on another person, so naturally you wouldn't notice anyone. Chapter 583. No matter how dazzling he was, in her eyes, he was probably transparent, not to mention that he was just a kid in university at that time. Ningxi blinked. Listening to this voice, it sounded like when she was infatuated with Su Yang 5 years ago. However, she really couldn't remember seeing Shi Shiqing, so she was a little curious. Under what circumstances did he see her? It had been 5 years, but he still remembered. Really? When? Ningxi asked casually. 5 years ago, your 18th birthday party. Shi Shiqing answered. Ningxi shook the wine glass in her hand. After all, that was her worst day. Shi Shiqing revealed a look of reminiscence, and slowly said, "You know, my grandfather and your grandfather have a good relationship, so I also went to that birthday party. I remember that you were wearing a white dress, and the first time I saw you, I was very surprised. You were like a natural princess." Hearing Shi Shiqing's description, Ningxi really didn't know what to say. Princess. Obviously, Mr. Shi's memory is not complete. That dress was a fake, and was later exposed in public. Shi Shiqing lightly interrupted her. Is it important whether it's real or fake? Even if the ugly duckling was born in a flock of ducks, she is still a swan, and nothing will change. That was the most memorable day of his life, because it was the first time he fell in love with a girl at first sight, and then watched helplessly as that girl was bullied, and he could do nothing about it. After that, he probably never went to the Ning family again. Hearing this, Ningxi's heart skipped a beat, and her eyes gradually darkened. "Oh, Mr. Shi, you seem to know more than I thought." Only then did Shi Shiqing realize that he seemed to have lost his composure, and said too many things that he shouldn't have said. "Sorry, I didn't mean to hear it." Because his gaze had been following her, he had unintentionally heard some things that he shouldn't have heard. After knowing about it, he felt even more sorry for her, and hated his own incompetence. 5 years later, he became famous, but he still couldn't let go of that matter, until his grandfather suddenly told him that he had arranged a blind date for him. Originally, he wanted to directly refuse, but he didn't expect his grandfather to say that the other party was the young miss of the Ning family. The young miss of the Ning family, Ning Xueluo, was about to be engaged, so who else could it be? He didn't dare to think about it, so he asked again if it was Ning Tianxin. However, the name that came out of his grandfather's mouth was Ningxi, which he didn't even dare to think about. She had disappeared for 5 years. Was she finally back? Because he never paid attention to the entertainment industry, nor did he read the entertainment news, he didn't even know a few of the popular stars. He was almost a dead person, so he didn't know that she had returned a year ago and had even become an actress. In order to have a common topic with her, he read all of her works, as well as all of the news and headlines related to her. All these years, he had been living a pure and simple life. He especially loved Buddhism, and his favorite place to visit was the temple. He would discuss Buddhism with his masters, and his family was worried that he would become a monk. He didn't expect her to appear at this time. While Ningxi and Shi Shiqing were reminiscing about the past, behind them, the little devil king had been completely demonized. Lu Jingli and Lu Tingxiao took turns to try countless methods, but none of them worked. They couldn't coax him at all. Lu Jingli was about to kneel down. "As long as you don't cry." Chapter 584. It's nothing. If you know, then you know. Ningxi shrugged nonchalantly. However, because of Shi Shiqing's words, her heart was still a little moved. She didn't expect that on the most miserable day of her life, on the day when she thought that she would be separated from the whole world, there was someone who stood on her side unknowingly. This gave her an indescribable feeling, as if she was being redeemed. It turned out that this world wasn't so unbearable, so incorrigible, as expected of a man who looked like the reincarnation of Buddha. This ability to deliver all living beings from suffering was simply amazing. Shi Shiqing heard her say this and heaved a sigh of relief. "Back then, I always felt very regretful and guilty that I couldn't help you. If you need anything now, please be sure to tell me. I won't hesitate to go through water and tread on fire." This Shi Shiqing, wasn't he too kind? She almost couldn't help but give him a good guy card. Ningxi smiled and raised her glass to toast him. "Mr. Shi, you're not Buddha, you can't deliver all living beings from suffering." "I don't want to deliver all living beings from suffering, only you," Shi Shiqing blurted out, looking a little anxious. As soon as he finished speaking, a blush appeared on that otherworldly face. Ningxi was startled, her heart skipping a beat. This isn't quite right. Behind her. "Xiaobao, don't cry, okay? Second uncle knows his wrong. Second uncle won't talk nonsense anymore. Please, if you cry again, I'm going to cry too." Sob sob sob. Lu Jingli was in a terrible fix when he noticed Shi Shiqing saying, "I don't want to deliver all living beings from suffering, only you," on Ningxi's side, which was almost like a confession. He was instantly dumbfounded. Fuck. You can't judge a book by its cover, Why is this Shi Shiqing so good at sweet-talking? Looking at his crying son and the two people in front of him, Lu Tingxiao could only feel a familiar but forcefully suppressed hostility lingering in his internal organs. He had an urge to destroy everything that got close to her. After saying that, Shi Shiqing subconsciously wanted to explain that he didn't mean that, but for some reason, he changed his mind. He didn't say anything and just quietly waited for the girl's reaction. Explain. Why did he have to explain? He had waited for 5 years for this day. How much longer do I have to wait? She was bewildered by Shi Shiqing's attitude. There seemed to be footsteps behind her, followed by a shadow falling on the low table in front of her. Then, she saw Shi Shiqing staring behind her with a surprised expression. Ningxi's heart skipped a beat. She subconsciously turned her head away. Then, he saw the gloomy face of the great demon king and the little bun in his arms, whose eyes were red from crying. Ningxi. Why are Lu Tingxiao and Xiao Bao here? One big and one small. The big one was silent while the small one was crying his heart out. He was trying his best to get her to hug him. She was sitting there with a man in front of her. What kind of déjà vu is this? Like a husband bringing his child to catch an adulterer. She was so shocked that she froze for a while and didn't pick up Xiao Bao. Seeing that Aunt Xiaoxi didn't hug him, little Bun was heartbroken. His tears rolled down like a floodgate. He sobbed and tried very hard to open his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but he couldn't say a word. Chapter 585. In the eyes of others, the little Bun was just crying too hard, so he couldn't speak, but he could clearly see the shape of his mouth. Was he silently calling out Mom again and again? After seeing the shape of the little Bun's mouth, with a clang sound, the wine glass in Shi Shiqing's hand was accidentally overturned to the ground. This child was calling Ningxi mother? How was this possible? Impossible. It was definitely impossible. This little boy looked to be 4 or 5 years old. How could Ningxi have such an old son? And this expressionless man with an oppressive aura, he felt that he looked a little familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. Ningxi also seemed to be very surprised. Could it be that the other party had recognized the wrong person? Just as Shi Shiqing was thinking about this, he saw Ningxi suddenly stand up and quickly hug the little boy from Lu Tingxiao's embrace, coaxing him like a precious treasure. Baby, don't cry, I'm sorry, it's all my fault, don't cry, okay. Shi Shiqing's face instantly turned pale. In the next second, he met the man's cold and deep gaze. That gaze was clearly the gaze of a stranger who had violated his property. It carried an extremely strong sense of aggression. However, when he retracted his gaze and looked at Ningxi, his ice-like gaze immediately turned into a gentle stream of water. This man and Ningxi. What was their relationship? Could it be that Ningxi had already gotten married and had children 5 years ago? No. Impossible. 5 years ago, Ningxi was so young. What was going on? Shi Shiqing was completely confused. At this moment, Ningxi's entire body and mind were focused on the crying little Bun. Neither Lu Tingxiao nor Shi Shiqing had the time to care about her, so they naturally wouldn't notice Shi Shiqing's unpredictable expression. Because the scene on Ningxi's side was too eye-catching, 2 men, a woman, and a child, all of them had such outstanding appearances, very quickly, more and more gazes were directed towards them. I'm sorry, Mr. Shi, I have to leave first. Ningxi carried the little Bun and hurriedly left the restaurant. Because of the little Bun's crying, she was so flustered that she even forgot to take her bag and phone. Lu Tingxiao carefully helped her put them away one by one, then followed them up and paid the bill for this table. Shi Shiqing stayed in place for a few seconds before quickly following her out. Outside the door, Ningxi was standing by the roadside with the little boy in her arms. It was a little cold outside at night, so the man took off his suit jacket and draped it over her shoulders. The 3 of them looked so harmonious. No one could step in. Ningxi used all her strength to coax the little Bun. Because he had cried too hard just now, he kept burping. Ningxi slowly patted his back and kissed his little face from time to time, comforting him gently. Why are you and Xiaobao here? When Xiaobao felt better, Ningxi remembered to ask Lu Tingxiao. Xiaobao missed you, so I brought him here to see you. Lu Tingxiao lied without batting an eyelid. In fact, He was the one who had tricked Xiaobao into coming here. Hearing this, Ningxi felt even more guilty. Was that why Xiaobao didn't show up all this time? He just stayed behind and watched her silently? Was he crying so sadly because he saw her eating with another man and thought that she was going to be snatched away? Ningxi naturally thought like this. Lu Tingxiao looked at Ningxi's expression and knew that she believed him. He couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. Otherwise, if she found out that he had brought Xiaobao out on his own and that he had cried because of Lu Jingli's nonsense, then the consequences. Chapter 586. Otherwise, if she found out that he was the one who had brought Xiaobao out on his own and that Xiaobao had cried because of Lu Jingli's nonsense, the consequences. Although Xiaobao was a sure-kill skill, there were too many uncertainties, such as today's situation. Originally, he had only wanted to bring Xiaobao along in case of emergencies. Who knew that Lu Jingli's words would cause Xiaobao to completely lose control? Fortunately, it didn't cause too much of an impact in the end. Everything was basically within his plan. After Ningxi asked Lu Tingxiao, she inadvertently glanced at him from the corner of her eyes. Then, she saw that Shi Shiqing had followed them out and was quietly standing a few steps away from them. She didn't know how long he had been standing there. Looking at Shi Shiqing standing there alone, as thin as a piece of white paper, Ningxi's heart slightly tightened, and she gradually had a bad feeling. Although she had vaguely guessed that Shi Shiqing might be interested in her during the meal, she seemed to have underestimated his obsession and feelings. That expression didn't look like he had just met an old friend who had once moved his heart. Instead, it was as if he had liked her for many years. She really couldn't figure it out. It was just a hurried meeting 5 years ago. Logically speaking, Shi Shiqing shouldn't have such deep feelings for her, right? But, no matter what, the facts seemed to be right in front of them. If that was the case, it would be really troublesome. Although they had only interacted for a short time, she could tell that Shi Shiqing was indeed a good man. Furthermore, he was the grandson of her grandfather's good friend. If she didn't handle it well in the future, it would be very troublesome. Therefore, it would be best if he could cut the Gordian knot today and completely cut off his thoughts. Thinking of this, Ningxi withdrew her gaze and made up her mind. Wait a minute. Jing Li is going to drive the car. Lu Tingxiao stood at the windshield, his tall figure shielding Ningxi and Xiaobao from the wind. Ningxi narrowed her eyes and looked deeply into Lu Tingxiao's eyes. Lu Tingxiao, The girl's eyes were so mesmerizing that Lu Tingxiao's heart trembled. What's wrong? Ningxi stared at him without blinking. That gaze seemed to be able to see through a person's heart. Actually, it wasn't Xiaobao who wanted to come tonight, right? Did you bring Xiaobao here yourself? Lu Tingxiao, just a moment ago, he was rejoicing that nothing went wrong. Was he going to be exposed now? Lu Tingxiao's brain spun rapidly as he tried to come up with a countermeasure. However, what he didn't expect was that at this moment, Ningxi, who had just questioned him, suddenly tiptoed and kissed his lips. Lu Tingxiao only felt a boom in his brain, and then a white light, and he didn't know anything else. Ningxi. What was she doing? From the corner of his eyes, he could even see the girl's long eyelashes. The softness of her lips was accompanied by a refreshing fragrance of wine. Everything was so surreal that it seemed like a dream. No, even in his dreams, he did not dare to imagine such a day, such a moment. Ouch! Lu Jingli had already driven his car over. As soon as he rolled down the window, he saw this scene. In his excitement, he almost mistook the accelerator for the brake. Ah! What was going on? What was going on? Why did he just drive a car and leave for a few minutes? He already couldn't understand this world. Chapter 587. Why was 1111 kissing her brother? No, that was not the point. The point was that 1111 was the one who took the initiative. If his brother was jealous and couldn't help kissing her, it might be possible, but the current situation was simply unscientific. Ningxi left Lu Tingxiao's lips and glanced at Shi Shiqing out of the corner of her eye. Then, she looked at Lu Tingxiao, her bright eyes rippling with a trace of a smile, shining like stars in the sky. She tilted her head and asked teasingly, "Are you jealous?" She sounded like a girlfriend teasing her boyfriend. Under Lu Tingxiao's startled gaze, Ningxi smiled and continued, I told you that the person I like is you. As soon as she finished speaking, Lu Jingli, who was in the car, was completely confused by the development of the plot. Lu Tingxiao listened to those sweet words and looked at the affection in the girl's eyes. He stretched out his long arms and tightly pulled the girl into his embrace. He covered her lips again and deepened the kiss. At this moment, even if he knew that there was a cliff in front of him, he was willing to jump down without hesitation. The kiss finally ended when Ningxi almost suffocated. She secretly looked over Lu Tingxiao's shoulder and glanced behind him, but Shi Shiqing was no longer there. Ningxi sighed secretly. Although she was very sorry, this was the best way she could think of for each other. Now that Shi Shiqing had finally settled the matter, there was, of course, a very important thing that she had to explain to the devil. The two of them were hugging each other. Suddenly, a soft thing nudged and nudged between the two of them. With a puff, a small head popped out. It was Xiaobao. Only then did Ningxi realize that she was still holding Xiaobao in her arms. She hurriedly struggled and said, Lu Tingxiao, you're squeezing Xiaobao. I'm going to die. Just now, she was so focused on how to make Shi Shiqing give up that she forgot that Xiaobao was still there and did something inappropriate in front of Xiaobao. Hearing Ningxi's words and looking at his son in his arms, Lu Tingxiao woke up from his dream. Little Bun puffed up his cheeks and looked at Papa angrily. Too much. Not only did he get a kiss from Aunt Xiaoxi, but he also got a hug from Aunt Xiaoxi. However, even though he was angry, he didn't seem to be that angry. Because if Aunt Xiaoxi liked Papa, she could always be his Aunt Xiaoxi. No, it was Xiaoxi's mother. Thinking of this, Xiaobao decided to forgive Papa for the time being. After Lu Tingxiao released her, Ningxi temporarily put Xiaobao down. Then she immediately stood at attention and made a 90-degree bow. Boss, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble in the future, I wanted Shi Shiqing to give up. That's why I kissed you and said those words in desperation. I'm sorry. In the car, Lu Jingli was completely dumbfounded. This plot. It was simply full of ups and downs. He suddenly felt sorry for his brother's little heart. A second ago, he thought that little 1111 liked him, but the next second, he was shattered into pieces by the truth. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao looked at Ningxi quietly and said nothing. Seeing that Lu Tingxiao did not speak, Ningxi suddenly felt a little scared. Would the devil be angry? In fact, the reason why she dared to do this was that she believed that Lu Tingxiao, with his IQ, would definitely know her intentions immediately and cooperate with her. Chapter 588. The reason why Ningxi dared to do this was that she believed that Lu Tingxiao, with his IQ, would know her intentions immediately and cooperate with her. As a result, the devil did cooperate with her, and the show was flawless. However, looking at Lu Tingxiao's reaction now, could it be that something went wrong? Tragedy. Lu Tingxiao couldn't have taken it seriously, right? This was not in line with the devil's IQ. In fact, after a short moment of shock, Lu Tingxiao immediately understood what Ningxi wanted to do. However, at that time, his emotions prevailed over his reason. Even though he knew it was fake, he still suppressed the truth and indulged himself in the dream she had created. After waiting for a long time, Lu Tingxiao finally spoke. He gently rubbed Ningxi's head and said, "It's okay. You did a good job." The silence just now was not because he was angry. He just wanted to quietly remember her kiss, her words, and his feelings at that moment. Ningxi finally breathed a sigh of relief when she heard this. But why did "you did a good job" sound so strange? At this time, Lu Jingli, who had been ignored for a long time, finally couldn't help but say, "Well, please come to see me. I've been waiting for a long time. Do you still want to get in the car?" Ningxi rolled her eyes at Lu Jingli and then carried Little Bun into the car. As soon as they got in the car, Lu Jingli began to laugh. "Little 1111, I saw everything just now. Poor baby Xiaobao. He's almost like a stuffed biscuit. Lu Jingli, I haven't asked you yet. The more I think about what happened today, the more I find it strange. Even if Xiaobao was unhappy to see me eating with Shi Shiqing, he didn't have to cry like that. Did you say something to Xiaobao that you shouldn't have?" Ningxi suddenly asked. Lu Jingli was so scared that he almost wet his pants. For the sake of his life, he swore to deny it. I didn't say anything. Little 1111, you've wronged me. Ningxi ground her teeth. Obviously, she had already decided that it was him. I've wronged you. Then I'll ask Xiaobao directly. Let's see if I've wronged you or not. Lu Jingli was dumbfounded when he heard this. He hurriedly cast a pleading look at his brother. Brother, help me. If sister-in-law finds out, she will kill me. The more she loves Xiaobao, the more painful she will beat me. Lu Tingxiao glanced at Lu Jingli's frightened face. For the sake of Lu Jingli's past achievements, he said, Ningxi, you just said you want Shi Shiqing to give up. Do you mean that Shi Shiqing has feelings for you? Ningxi's attention was diverted by Lu Tingxiao's words. She scratched her head and looked a bit embarrassed. To be honest, I'm also confused. I don't know why Shi Shiqing fell in love with me. We chatted before, and I only know that we met once 5 years ago. That was the only time, and we didn't have any other interactions. Of course, it could also be that I was too sensitive and thought too much. No matter what, there was no problem now. It's all thanks to Sir Boss. Thank you again. Lu Tingxiao, you're welcome. With the crisis averted, Lu Jingli wiped the sweat off his forehead. Looking at his brother's serious expression, he suddenly came back to his senses. Come to think of it, his brother did not suffer a loss this time. Not only did he KO a love rival without doing anything, but he also got a kiss for free. It was simply too profitable. It wouldn't be enough even if it happened a few more times. Chapter 589. In any case, this matter was finally solved smoothly. In the car, Ningxi was about to call Grandpa to report the situation, but she was a little hesitant. Alas, although she and Shi Shiqing had agreed to go home separately, what if Grandpa still didn't give up? Hello, Grandpa. Hey, Xiaoxi, have you met the boy from the Shi family? How is he? Is he a nice guy? Well, Grandpa, he is nice, but he doesn't like me. Ningxi replied. What did you say? That boy doesn't like you? Grandpa, she said excitedly. No, Grandpa. I mean, we don't like each other. Don't try to make us a couple. Ningxi explained to Grandpa according to the words she had discussed with Shi Shiqing. On the other end of the phone, Grandpa, she sounded very disappointed. How is that possible? Grandpa met the boy from the Shi family on purpose. He is handsome, so I let you go on a blind date with him. You don't like him? Then tell Grandpa what kind of man you like and I'll help you find him. I have an old friend, and his grandson. Oh no, sure enough. Ningxi touched her forehead. Grandpa, don't. Grandpa, I really don't want to find a boyfriend now. Xiaoxi, believe me. I've been through it. You're in the best age. You can find the best man at this time, and, Ningxi was having a headache. Suddenly, she felt a heat source beside her. Lu Tingxiao came up to her ear and whispered to her, tell your grandpa that your boss doesn't allow you to have a boyfriend. Ningxi froze, covered the phone and asked Lu Tingxiao, what? Didn't Lin Jiji tell you? You can't have a boyfriend now, Lu Tingxiao said calmly. Ningxi's eyes lit up. Yes, that's a good reason. Lu Jingli, who was driving, twitched the corner of his mouth and muttered, haha, yes, the boss doesn't allow you to have a boyfriend, only the boss himself. Grandpa, I just want to work hard now, and my career is on the rise. Our company doesn't allow me to have a boyfriend. Grandpa, she was angry. What? How can there be such a company that doesn't allow you to have a boyfriend? Does your boss understand human rights? Ningxi glanced at Lu Tingxiao, who had taken a bullet for her. Grandpa, that's what we do. If we have a boyfriend, we'll lose a lot of fans. What's more, I've opened my own studio. I'm so busy every day. Next month, I'm going to start the promotion of the new film. I have to travel all over the country. After that, I have to shoot the new film. I really don't have time. Ning Jiyuan originally wanted to ask her to come to the company, but hearing her voice, he knew that it was impossible. Although it was a shame, he was glad to hear that his granddaughter had her own career and was living a fulfilling life. Then what about Grandpa's great-grandson? When can I hold him? Hearing the old man's sorrowful sigh, Ningxi patted Xiao Baozi's head and sighed in her heart. Sigh, if only Xiao Baozi was my son, then everything would be solved. How about, Grandpa, I get you a test tube baby? Lu Tingxiao, Lu Jingli, Xiao Bao. What is a test tube baby? Chapter 590. Nonsense. After all, the old man was old, and his thinking was more traditional. It was impossible for him to accept this kind of thing. He was also afraid that Ningxi would do something stupid under pressure, so he hurriedly softened his tone. Forget it, forget it. In fact, you are still young. Go back to work first. I won't make things difficult for you, but you have to come back to see me often. This request is not too much, right? Ningxi was overjoyed. Not at all. I will come back to see you often. After hanging up the phone, Ningxi felt relieved. She finally got rid of a burden. Lu Jingli was still shocked by the word test tube baby. Brother Shi, you are awesome. You even have a test tube baby. Ningxi rolled her eyes at him. My grandpa wants to have a great-grandson. I can't find a man. What do you want me to do? Then where can you get sperm? Lu Jingli asked. Sperm bank. Lu Jingli glanced at his brother in the rearview mirror. Actually, there is one right next to you, and the genes are excellent. Ningxi knew who Lu Jingli was talking about. She said helplessly, Stop. Stop this inappropriate topic. Have a baby with the devil, Lu Tingxiao said. The quality of the sperm is better when it is natural. Ningxi said, That's enough. I was just saying. Don't talk about it so deeply. Xiaobao is still here. She looked down. Fortunately, Xiaobao had cried himself to sleep. Pearl River Regency. Lu Tingxiao and Lu Jingli walked Ningxi and Xiaobao to the door upstairs. Lu Tingxiao touched his son's little head and looked up at Ningxi. I'm leaving. It's getting colder. Keep warm at night. Ningxi nodded. Okay, I know. Good night, boss. Lu Tingxiao gave her a deep look. Good night, boss. Lu Jingli yawned. Good night, brother Shi tilde. If you have any gossip about Shi Shiqing, remember to share it with me tilde. Ningxi looked speechlessly at the man who lived by gossiping. You can't miss out on anything. After saying their goodbyes, the two of them prepared to leave. However, Lu Tingxiao had just turned around when he felt his clothes being pulled by a small force. When he turned around, he actually saw that Xiaobao had woken up at some point in time and was looking at him with drowsy eyes. One of his little hands was holding onto the corner of his clothes, refusing to let go. Lu Tingxiao was momentarily stunned. After all, Xiaobao had never been so intimate with him before. Every time he left Ningxi's place, the little guy would be so happy and eager for him to leave. Not only Lu Tingxiao, Lu Jingli and Ningxi were also stunned. Xiaobao, what's wrong? Ningxi asked softly. Xiaobao blinked as he looked at Lu Tingxiao. Then, he fumbled about in his robes. Ningxi knew that he was looking for a writing board, so she hurriedly took it out from the small bag he was carrying. Little Baozi was still clutching onto Lu Tingxiao's clothes with one hand. She rubbed her eyes with the other and then wrote a few words on the writing board. Daddy, don't go, 4 words. Before Lu Tingxiao could react, Lu Jingli howled, so touched that he was about to cry. Oh, Xiaobao is so warm. I want to have a son too. I want to do a test tube baby. At this moment, Lu Tingxiao looked at his son's little hand holding his clothes and the 4 words on the writing board. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. Ningxi's eyes were already filled with tears. She wanted to see Lu Tingxiao and little Baozi getting along better. Lu Tingxiao, why don't you stay at my place tonight? Spend more time with Xiaobao. Chapter 591. Lu Jingli wanted to go out and run wildly. Wow! He was so envious. It was so good to have a son. What a godly assist. Lu Tingxiao didn't know how to react, probably because the happiness came too suddenly. Although Xiaobao had always been his trump card, this was the first time that Xiaobao had helped him of his own accord. Was it because of what happened tonight? That was really a blessing in disguise. In the end, Lu Tingxiao stayed, and the single Lu Jingli ran home alone in tears. In the bedroom, Ningxi was lying on the bed with Xiaobao, singing to him to coax him to sleep. Lu Tingxiao was sitting on the other side of the bed, one of his sleeves still held by the little boy. After coaxing Xiaobao to sleep, Ningxi asked, "Why don't you sleep with Xiaobao tonight?" "I'll go to the guest room. We can sleep together," Lu Tingxiao said. Ningxi was stunned and scratched her head awkwardly. "Huh? Isn't that a bad idea?" Lu Tingxiao said, "No, I don't mind." Ningxi was speechless. This devil was getting naughtier. Boss had said that he didn't mind being taken advantage of. How could she say that she did? Fortunately, the bed was big and there was a little bun in the middle, so it wasn't a big deal. When Ningxi entered the room after taking a bath, Lu Tingxiao was already lying on the bed. His hair was slightly damp and messy after taking a bath. Wearing pajamas, he looked down at Xiaobao beside him. His eyes were gentle, just like a father from an ordinary family. Ningxi's little heart was beating fast when she saw him. Hearing footsteps, Lu Tingxiao looked up. "Drink the milk before you go to sleep." Oh! Why did it feel like Lu Tingxiao had two children? After drinking the milk, Ningxi lay down on the other side of Xiaobao. Lu Tingxiao turned off the main light in the room, leaving only a dim nightlight on. He bent over and kissed his son on the forehead. Seeing Ningxi looking at him, Lu Tingxiao raised his eyebrows. "Do you want a goodnight kiss too?" Ningxi widened her eyes and shook her head. She just felt that the way the devil took care of Xiaobao was very charming, so she just looked at him a few more times. How could he have such an ulterior motive? There was a hint of a smile in Lu Tingxiao's eyes. He suddenly walked past Xiaobao and leaned over. Under Ningxi's widened gaze, he kissed her on the lips. "Ningxi! Holy shit! Great Demon King, what are you doing? What happened to sleeping with Xiaobao?" Lu Tingxiao narrowed his eyes, concealing the trace of darkness in them. "This is the reward for blocking the arrow for you today." Ningxi. She was speechless. The next morning, Ningxi woke up in a daze. She felt that she had never slept so soundly before. She didn't have any dreams all night, and her whole body was warm. The heat was so strong that she didn't want to get up. "No, I still have to get up and make a nutritious breakfast for little Bun." Ningxi finally opened her eyes. In the end, as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw a half-naked chest, 5 lightning strikes. Holy shit! What was going on? Why was she sleeping like this? She didn't know how she got to Lu Tingxiao's side, but she was lying on top of him. His pajamas were torn by her, revealing a large area of his honey-colored skin. And her hands were pressed on his bare abdomen and chest. Ningxi shivered and got up like a carp. She wanted to sneak to the other side, but she didn't control her strength and accidentally pressed on Lu Tingxiao's body. And it seemed that she was pressing on a place that she shouldn't have. Chapter 592. The man groaned and slowly opened his eyes. Bits of starlight leaked out from his eyes bit by bit, reflecting her panicked and confused face. Ningxi swallowed her saliva and rolled her eyes, thinking about how to explain this ridiculous situation. Damn it. This situation was too fucking hard to explain. It wasn't that hard to explain even if he was caught in bed. Ningxi's brain was about to explode. However, in the next second, she knew that this little bit of stimulation was nothing at all. Because, after Lu Tingxiao stared at her for a few seconds with his eyes that were clearly still not fully awake, he suddenly turned over fiercely. Ningxi was completely confused by Lu Tingxiao's sudden action. In addition, the air in her chest was getting thinner and her brain couldn't focus at all. Even the feelings that she had suppressed for a long time were almost brought out by this apocalyptic kiss. She almost couldn't help but respond to him. What was worse was that because she was too close, she immediately felt the man's intense reaction in the morning. Fuck. Ningxi. Wake up. Darling Xiaobao was still sleeping at the side. Unfortunately, she had woken up, but Lu Tingxiao hadn't. This kiss was as if he wanted to tear her apart and swallow her whole. Ningxi had no choice but to bite down hard. In an instant, her mouth was filled with the smell of blood. Lu Tingxiao frowned and his movements slowed down. Ningxi took advantage of this second to quickly push him away. She panted and said, "Hey, Lu Tingxiao. Are you sleepwalking?" If he was sleepwalking, There was no point in asking. That wasn't right. Shouldn't sleepwalking be done at night? The sky was already bright. Just as she was confused, the man who had woken up slightly said in a hoarse voice, "No." She blinked her eyes and her heart skipped a beat. Wasn't it? Lu Tingxiao's slender fingers ran through his messy hair, his eyes still filled with lust. "I'm sorry, I wasn't awake just now. I thought I was dreaming." Ningxi, this answer, what could she say? Could it be that the great demon king wanted to do such a thing to her in his dream? Moreover, the Lu Tingxiao just now was really different from the usual Lu Tingxiao in front of her. That kiss just now was simply too domineering. It was so domineering that it made people a little flustered. "What were you doing just now?" Before Ningxi could speak, Lu Tingxiao suddenly asked, and with one sentence, he changed his position from the perpetrator to the victim. Hearing this question, Ningxi felt really guilty. Well, would you believe me if I said I don't know?" Lu Tingxiao looked at her deeply. His expression was one of disbelief. Ningxi's expression was incomparably sincere. "Sir boss, I swear to God, I really don't know how I woke up and fell asleep like this. Actually, my sleeping posture is pretty good. In short, this was an accident." Chapter 593. Ningxi murmured, "Besides, you just did that to me. Anyway, we're even, right?" Lu Tingxiao thought for a while and then nodded, "Okay, we're even." Ningxi heaved a sigh of relief. However, as soon as she breathed a sigh of relief, she felt something was wrong. This was not right. It was not even. She was the one who suffered a loss. Forget it, who asked her to go there first? Otherwise, Lu Tingxiao wouldn't have done what he did later. "Well, boss, can you get up? I'm going to make breakfast." Ningxi asked weakly. Lu Tingxiao didn't leave immediately, but looked at her motionlessly. His eyes became darker and darker. Ningxi didn't know what she looked like at the moment. The girl lying under him had a charming blush on her cheeks. Her lips were a little swollen, her pajamas were a little messy, and her long black hair was splashed on the white pillow like ink. Lu Tingxiao couldn't help asking himself, how on earth did he restrain himself? Lu Tingxiao? Ningxi was a little frightened by his stare. Lu Tingxiao came to his senses and got out of bed. Ningxi immediately ran away like a rabbit. Ningxi quickly made a table full of delicious and nutritious breakfast, and then went to call Lu Tingxiao and Little Bun over to eat. Little Bun seemed to be particularly happy today. His delicate little face was brighter than usual, and he ate more than usual for breakfast. Ningxi had thought it was inappropriate to let Lu Tingxiao spend the night here last night, but now, looking at Little Bun's happy little face, she began to rejoice that she had made the decision to let Lu Tingxiao stay. In her heart, Little Bun would always be the first. As long as Little Bun was happy, everything else was fleeting. After breakfast, it was still very early, so Lu Tingxiao sat on the sofa and read the newspaper. Little Bun, who rarely stuck to Lu Tingxiao's side, picked up a book that Ningxi didn't understand, and used a writing board to communicate with Lu Tingxiao. Under the sun, the big and the small were like a warm oil painting, inexplicably giving people a feeling of peace and stability. Until Ningxi's cell phone suddenly rang. Ningxi looked down and her heart suddenly sank. It was her grandfather calling. Lu Tingxiao saw her expression and asked aloud, "What's wrong?" "Who was it?" "My grandfather." Ningxi frowned. Didn't they agree last night? Did Grandpa change his mind again? Ningxi scratched her head and answered the phone worriedly. "Hello, Grandpa, Xiaoxi. Let me ask you, are you hiding something from me?" On the other end of the phone, the old man asked directly without saying anything, and his tone was unusually serious. Ningxi paused. No. What do you mean, Grandpa? It's about Shi Shiqing. Hearing this name, Ningxi suddenly had a bad feeling. Did Shi Shiqing say something in front of Grandpa? He didn't tell his family as they had agreed. It can't be, right? Shi Shiqing didn't seem like that kind of person. "Grandfather, what's wrong with Mr. Shi? I really have no idea what you're talking about." On the other end of the line, the old master sounded very agitated. "You don't know? Then tell me, why is it that after meeting you yesterday, I want to become a monk today. Fuck. What did Grandpa just say? Ningxi was shocked by the old man's words. Grandpa, what did you say? Become a monk. Chapter 594. Shi Shiqing is going to become a monk. Grandpa, are you sure? Grandpa, are you kidding me? Ningxi couldn't believe her grandpa's words at all. Hearing the conversation between Ningxi and her grandfather, Lu Tingxiao also showed a slightly surprised expression, and then his brows furrowed. He had thought that Shi Shiqing had been completely solved after last night, but he didn't expect such a thing to happen. On the other end of the phone, the old man said angrily, "You child, why would I lie to you? That kid from the Shi family is already at the temple. He's going to be shaved in the afternoon. It's absolutely true. How could I lie to you?" Hearing this, Ningxi was completely confused. She said bitterly, How could it be? Was there any other reason for this? Why do you have to say it's because of me? What other reason could it be? He was fine before he left. After he came back from dinner with you, he suddenly talked to his family and said that he was going to the temple to become a monk. You're the most suspicious. Grandpa Luo said earnestly, 1111, you must think carefully about what happened when you two were having dinner last night. It's not a small thing to become a monk. If it's related to you, how can I explain it to your grandpa Shi? The more Ningxi thought about it, the more guilty she felt. In fact, a lot of things had happened last night. Could it be that she had tried too hard to make Shi Shiqing give up last night? Damn it. No matter how hard she tried, she didn't have to become a monk, did she? Grandpa, where are you now? She seemed to hear some vague chanting on the other end of the phone. I'm at the Fahua temple. Shiqing's grandpa and parents are there. 1111, come here first. I can't explain it over the phone. Okay, I see. Grandpa, don't worry. I'll be right there. After hanging up the phone, Ningxi gave Lu Tingxiao a complicated look. Alas, how could the devil be so powerful? Shi Shiqing is going to become a monk? Lu Tingxiao asked. Ningxi nodded. Yes, and it seems that I have to go to the Fahua temple now because of me. I'll go with you. Ah, forget it. What if he sees you and becomes even more irritated? Ningxi said with a bitter face. I'll only walk you to the temple gate. But, you're going to work soon. I don't have anything to do in the morning, but I have a meeting. Jingli can host it for me, Lu Tingxiao said and called Lu Jingli. Lu Jingli's cheerful voice came from the other end of the phone. Hello, brother, why are you calling me so early? TSK, something's up. I won't be able to attend the meeting in the morning. You host it, Lu Tingxiao said calmly. Lu Jingli was excited. Ah, can't make it. What happened last night? Don't tell me you and 1111. Shi Shiqing is going to become a monk. I'll accompany Ningxi to the Fahua temple. Lu Tingxiao interrupted Lu Jingli's train of thought. Phut. Lu Jingli, who was on the other end of the phone, choked. Become a monk? Brother, are you kidding me? After hanging up the phone, Lu Jingli still couldn't react. The development of this plot was too fantastical. Most importantly, how could he not be present at such an important moment? Lu Jingli decisively made a call to a department head and asked him to host the meeting. Then, he sneaked over to Fahua Temple. Chapter 595. Fahua Temple. Lu Tingxiao was waiting in the car with Xiao Bao. Ningxi quickly got out of the car and rushed to find her grandfather and the others. After bypassing the crowd that had come to offer incense early in the morning, Ningxi walked straight to the courtyard behind the main hall. After passing through a few corridors, she saw a familiar figure in a courtyard. Other than that, there was also Shi Boyi and a middle-aged man and woman. They should be Shi Shiqing's parents. Grandfather, little Shi, you're here. Come here quickly. Seeing that his granddaughter had arrived, Ning Jiyuan hurriedly stood up and pulled her over. Grandpa Shi, uncle, auntie. Ning Shi greeted them one by one, feeling a little uneasy. When the three members of the Shi family saw Ning Shi, they also went over excitedly. Mother Shi grabbed her hand as if she had seen her savior. Your little Shi? You really are a good child. No wonder our Ching has been praising you ever since you came back. She originally thought that mother she would scold her, but she didn't expect him to praise her instead. She couldn't help but be stunned. Good child, don't be nervous. Your grandfather was too serious on the phone just now. We all know that this has nothing to do with you. Last night, Ching already told us that the two of you feel that each other's personalities are more suitable to be friends. Hearing this, she heaved a sigh of relief and guilt. She had actually suspected Ching before, but she didn't expect him to say anything after he returned and even speak up for her. Damn it. She really hoped that Ching was an ignorant and incompetent playboy. That way, it would be easier for her to deal with him, but, mother she pulled her eyes red as she continued, we didn't call you here for any other reason. It's just that we've thought about everything we can think of, but we don't know why Ching suddenly wants to become a monk, so we called you out with a last glimmer of hope. From Ching's tone last night, he seems to admire you a lot. If you guys talk like this, maybe he'll listen to your advice. Good child, can you help Auntie persuade Ching? Old master, she said from the side, what do you mean by very appreciative? I think this kid must have taken a fancy to Xiaoxi and liked this girl. That day, when I said that I arranged a blind date for him, he initially rejected me, but when I said that it was the young miss of the Ning family, he immediately asked me who it was. I said it was little Shi, and he immediately agreed. Then why did he say that Xiaoxi wasn't his type after he came back, and that she was more suitable to be his friend? Mrs. Shi was puzzled. At this time, Father Shi opened his mouth. It's not like you don't know your son's personality. He's so passive, doesn't fight for anything, and even likes Buddhism at such a young age, causing his personality to become even more indifferent. I think it's most likely that little Shi first expressed that she didn't have any feelings for him, so he directly hid his true thought. Before Shi could think of how to explain it to them, the elders had already imagined the general process. Although it was still different from reality, it was good to let them misunderstand like this. Otherwise, she wouldn't know what to say. Mother Shi listened to Father Shi's analysis and felt that it was possible. Could it be that Ching really can't think straight because of this? That's not possible, is it? Father Shi's face was solemn. Previously, when he was immersed in Buddhism, I was worried that this day would come. I should have stopped him from coming into contact with these messy hobbies. Chapter 596. Old man she originally wanted to angrily rebuke, how can this be a messy hobby? But when he thought of his grandson's current situation, he could only remain silent. Although he believed in Buddhism, this did not mean that he could accept his grandson becoming a monk. From the conversation between Father Shi, Mother Shi, and Grandfather Shi, Shi knew why Ching was so good. These elders were all very gentle and considerate people. The moment they arrived, they first comforted her. Even now, they did not have a single word of doubt or blame her. They were all looking for the reason from her. It was precisely because of this that she felt even more guilty. The son that he had painstakingly raised had become a monk because of him. This was truly too sinful. Originally, she was still a little unsure, but after listening to their conversation just now, since they couldn't find any other reason, then it could only be because of what happened last night. At that time, Ching's expression. Indeed, something was wrong. How about this? I'm already here. Although I'm not confident, I'll try my best, okay? She suggested. Hearing this, Mother Shi immediately had a face full of gratitude. Great. Little Shi, thank you so much. Father Shi's expression also relaxed a little. You don't have to feel pressured. This matter has nothing to do with you in the first place. Let's give it a try. Although the two of them were comforting Shi, it was obvious that they were still very nervous. After all, Shi was their only hope at this moment. Shi took a deep breath and walked towards the location of the meditation room that Mother Shi had told her about. Behind her, Jiuan sighed, I hope that little Shi can persuade you. Actually, he didn't have much hope either, because the child seemed to be very determined this time. Even if it was really related to little Shi, he probably wouldn't be able to persuade her to change her mind. Shi finally found Ching's meditation room after many turns. Walking along a bluestone staircase to the end, he saw a quiet and secluded courtyard. There were a few plum blossoms in the courtyard, emitting a clear fragrance that refreshed one's heart, causing one to instantly relax. The door to the meditation room was open, and there was only a straw curtain, gently swaying in the breeze, making a tar-tar-tar sound. Other than that, the air was completely quiet, without any sound. Compared to the outside world, it was like a different world. Ningxi walked up the steps and slowly walked to the door. She hesitated for a moment, then reached out and lifted the curtain. After lifting the curtain, the first thing that came into view was a window. Outside the window was a large bamboo forest, and inside the window was a screen filled with scriptures. Behind the screen, Shi Shiqing was sitting quietly on a cattail hassock, holding a scroll of scriptures in his hand. His expression was devout and focused, or it could be said that he had a pure heart and few desires. Even though he was still wearing a secular suit, his temperament was completely that of a monk. Seeing Shi Shiqing like that, Ningxi was shocked. In just one night, how did he suddenly change into a different person? Previously, although his temperament was very otherworldly, at least it was still very worldly. But now, it was as if he had completely seen through the mortal world. Ningxi suddenly had a headache. Shi Shiqing's situation was more troublesome than she had imagined. No, she couldn't retreat. Damn it, she had to take responsibility for her own sins. Moreover, Father Shi, Mother Shi, and the old man were still waiting for her news. Chapter 597. Ningxi calmed herself down and walked in. Perhaps because he heard footsteps, Shi Shiqing's hand that was holding the scripture paused, and then he slowly raised his head. Shi Shiqing's eyes were as calm as an ancient well when he saw who it was. Benefactor Ning. She almost vomited blood when she heard that. Fuck, he even used the word benefactor. He was really going to become a monk. She pinched the space between her eyebrows and simply sat down cross-legged opposite Shi Shiqing. Then she let out a long sigh and said, I say, big brother, why did you suddenly become a monk? What are you doing? Shi Shiqing said, this is the result of my careful consideration. If Benefactor Ning is here to persuade me, you can leave now. Is it because of me? She asked straightforwardly. Shi Shiqing said, everything comes from my heart. It has nothing to do with others. She took a deep breath. Then can I ask why you're doing this? Why? Even if it's because of what happened last night, even if you like me and find out that I already have someone I like, you don't have to be so stupid as to become a monk. This doesn't make sense. Shi Shiqing said, everything is in the blink of an eye. One thought is heaven, one thought is hell, one thought is life, one thought is death. She was on the verge of tears. Almighty, can you say something human? She was so scared. Benefactor Ning, if you're feeling guilty, then you don't have to. This is my own decision, Shi Shiqing said. What about your parents and your grandfather? You don't care. They raised you for so many years and you're just going to become a monk. Everything has its own fate. My fate with them is over. They still have Shixian. She recalled that Shi Shiqing had told her that he had a younger brother. Damn it, he had already thought of everything. He was determined to become a monk, and it wasn't a joke. Almighty, Mr. Shi, Ching, please reconsider. It's not a small matter to become a monk. 3 days. Wait for another 3 days. It's not too late to make a decision after thinking about it. She tried to stall for time. I've already made up my mind. Benefactor, please return. From today onwards, Benefactor can call me by my name, Yuanqing. Shi Shiqing began to send the guest off. Yuanqing. I'm fucking flexible. Shi Shiqing. You're determined not to change your mind, aren't you? Ningxi's eyes were filled with fire. This guy obviously looked so easy to talk to, but why was he so stubborn? If he really forced her into a corner, she would just knock him out and bring him back. Shi Shiqing's expression did not change in the slightest, like a monolith that had lived for many years. She talked for a long time and her lips were almost sore, but she still couldn't persuade him until her grandfather called. She walked out and answered the phone. Hello, Grandpa, Xiaoxi, what took you so long? How did your conversation go? Ningxi's face darkened. I'm sorry, Grandpa. I've tried everything I could, but it seems to be useless. The old man on the other end of the phone let out a long sigh. Forget it, I already expected this result. Xiaoxi, come back. Ningxi gritted her teeth. No rush, Grandpa, please wait a moment. Go find a place to rest and eat something. I want to try again. Sigh, you child. All right. Don't force yourself. Wait, your uncle, she wants to talk to you. Chapter 598. On the other end of the phone, it was Father Shi. Xiaoxi, come back. You don't understand my Shiqing. He looks soft, but as long as he has made a decision, he will never change his mind. No matter how much you try to persuade him, it's useless. That's right, Xiaoxi, don't make things difficult for yourself. We don't mean to blame you. This has nothing to do with you. Mother, she also tried to persuade her, afraid that the girl would mistakenly take the blame on herself. Uncle and Auntie, I understand. I won't turn back until I hit the south wall. Just let me try again. A moment later, Ningxi hung up the phone, the expression on her face changing rapidly. Knocking him unconscious and taking him away was the worst plan. If Shi Shiqing did not change his mind, he would run out again even if he brought him back. So, what should he do? At the same time, under a big tree not far from the temple, a black car was quietly parked. Inside the car, Lu Tingxiao looked at the time on his phone and frowned slightly. Damn it, it's been so long, why hasn't sister-in-law come out yet? Lu Jingli had already run over to meet up with his brother. Lu Tingxiao opened the car door and walked out. He lit a cigarette and was obviously in a bad mood. Lu Jingli scratched his head and followed out. It's not a good idea to just wait. Why don't we go in and take a look? I can't go. Ah. Okay. You don't seem to be the right person to go. I don't want little 1111 to become a nun because of your provocation after persuading her to go back. Lu Jingli muttered, then said, then I'll go. I'll secretly go and find out what's going on. If the Shi family puts pressure on sister-in-law, she will have no choice but to compromise and tell the truth about last night. For example, giving Shi Shiqing a chance and agreeing to date him or something, that would be terrible. Lu Tingxiao's eyes darkened. This was what he was most worried about. Moreover, with Ningxi's personality, if the Shi family tried to be soft, she would most likely try to persuade Shi Shiqing back at all costs. Brother, I'll go. If anything happens, I'll inform you immediately. I'll stop sister-in-law at the critical moment. Seeing that Lu Tingxiao didn't say anything, it was a tacit agreement. Lu Jingli immediately ran in. In the car, Xiao Bao popped his head out of the window and raised the writing board. Daddy, do you need Xiao Bao's help? It seemed that after last night, the little guy was completely willing to cooperate. Lu Tingxiao looked at his son gently. Thank you, but you can't help me with this. Little Bun hung his head in disappointment. Outside the meditation room, Ningxi walked in again. At the same time, Lu Jingli had also found out where Shi Shiqing lived and quickly rushed over. Shi Shiqing saw that Ningxi had returned, but there was still no expression on his face. It was as if the only thing left in his world was the scripture in front of him, and the only thing left in his heart was Buddha. Wholeheartedly devoted to Buddhism. Ningxi walked straight to Shi Shiqing and took away the scripture in his hand. Shi Shiqing, who had his scripture taken away, was not angry. He was as calm as ever. Ningxi casually threw away the scripture in her hand and then suddenly approached Shi Shiqing. One of her knees pressed against his side and the other hand was placed on the tea table beside him. Her face was extremely close, almost at a distance where they could hear each other's breath. Shi Shiqing's thin brows furrowed imperceptibly. Just as he was about to say something, Ningxi didn't give him a chance to speak. She directly pressed his shoulders and pressed him under her body. At the same time, her body was on top of his. Chapter 599. Outside the meditation room, Lu Jingli just peeped in through the window and saw such a shocking scene. Sister-in-law actually threw herself at Shi Shiqing, threw herself at him. In an instant, Lu Jingli was so scared that he almost lost his soul. Fuck. He had said that he would report to his brother as soon as possible. This, How could he tell his brother about this situation? This was going to kill him. What should he do? Should he rush in to stop it now? Oh, the pure and unrestrained Shi Shiqing and the wild and unruly Ningxi, the classic combination of an eminent monk and an enchantress. He suddenly felt that they were a strange match. Damn it, damn it. If his brother knew that he had this kind of idea, he would definitely die without a burial place. Not only did Ningxi throw herself at Shi Shiqing, but she also moved her warm and delicate fingers from his eyebrows to his lips, and slowly and painfully approached him. At this moment, Shi Shiqing was like a pool of stagnant water that suddenly encountered a storm. His whole body was as tense as a bow that was pulled to the extreme. His slender fingers were clenched tightly, and his breathing was completely out of rhythm. Seeing that Ningxi's lips were about to fall, he closed his eyes in fright and slightly turned his head away. His ears were almost bleeding. However, just when he was shocked, he heard an extremely cold voice in his ears. The fate of the mortal world is not ended. The six senses are not pure. Shi Shiqing, what kind of a monk are you? What kind of monk are you? What kind of monk are you? Aren't you afraid of tarnishing the holy land of Buddhism? As soon as the voice fell, the boiling blood in Shi Shiqing's body suddenly cooled down, and his face was as pale as paper. Outside the window, Lu Jingli's eyes were full of stars. Damn it! Sister-in-law is so handsome. It's really an unexpected turn of events. Fortunately, he didn't rush in impulsively, or he would have ruined sister-in-law's plan. Shi Shiqing opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say a word. Even when debating with Master Xian Jing about Buddhism, he had never lost. But at this moment, he was speechless. Because he couldn't control his own heart, his own emotions, and his own desires. Seeing that Shi Shiqing didn't speak, Ningxi narrowed her eyes. What? Still don't admit it. Shall I continue? No, there's no need. Shi Shiqing's eyes flashed with a trace of panic, and his face was full of bitterness. You're right, I'm indeed impure. Only then did Ningxi get up. She reached out to Shi Shiqing and pulled him up. Although he knew that his method might be a little cruel, he could only use a strong medicine to deal with Shi Shiqing's situation. At this moment, Shi Shiqing's face was no longer as calm as before. He didn't know how to describe his current feelings. No one understood, including Ningxi. She didn't understand why he made such a decision. He had waited for 5 whole years, and suddenly, such an opportunity was placed in front of him. However, before he could properly appreciate it, it immediately burst into bubbles. If there was no hope at all, perhaps he wouldn't be in such despair. He could still remember the tearing pain in his heart when he saw them kissing. At that moment, he remembered that this man was the president of the Lu group, Lu Tingxiao. Although he had only seen her once at the Treasure Jade Pavilion's ribbon-cutting ceremony, there was no way he would mistake her for someone else. If it was anyone else, he might have a chance to compete. However, it was Lu Tingxiao. In this battle, he had already suffered a crushing defeat before it even started. Chapter 600. His family was well off, and his life had been smooth sailing since he was a child. There were no twists and turns in his life, and he didn't have anything in particular that he wanted. As long as he wanted something, he could easily get it. As a result, he developed a temperament of being indifferent to anything. Life seemed to be dispensable to him. He existed in this world as an outsider. Until Ningxi appeared, and again 5 years later, she completely broke the barrier between him and the world, giving him what he wanted for the first time. It was precisely because it was too precious that he was so desperate when he lost it. He thought that he had nothing else to ask for in this life. When he came to find Master Xian Jing and asked him to accept him, even Master Xian Jing agreed to help him shave his head. Because at that time, his state of mind was really empty. But now, just because of a small action of hers, he was pulled back to this mortal world. Perhaps, she was really his predestined fate. There was a hint of compromise on Shi Shiqing's face. Looking at Shi Shiqing's expression, Ningxi secretly heaved a sigh of relief. She knew that she had succeeded. Are you going home? Ningxi looked at him. I need to go and tell Master Xian Jing. Hearing that, Ningxi immediately became alarmed. Then I'll go with you. It wasn't easy for her to pull him back. If he chatted with Master Xian Jing for a while and was sent back, who could she cry to? Shi Shiqing wanted to say no, but looking at her bright eyes, he knew what she was worried about, so he could only let her be. In the main hall, Master Xian Jing didn't seem to be surprised by Shi Shiqing's arrival. However, when he looked at Ningxi behind him, his gaze changed slightly. Abbot, I'm sorry. My fate in the mortal world is not settled, and my state of mind is unstable. I feel that I'm not qualified to become a Buddhist. At this moment in front of the Reverend, Ningxi actually felt a little guilty. After all, in this matter, she had played some clever tricks. Not to mention that Shi Shiqing was not a monk, even if he was a real monk, at the age of youth and vigor, with an unstable state of mind, there were not many who could resist this kind of seduction. Fortunately, Xian Jing didn't pursue the matter further, nor did he force her. Everything has its own fate. Go ahead. At this moment, Ningxi looked at the old monk in front of her, who looked very profound, and was quite curious. This is the legendary Great Master Xian Jing? The one who consecrated the jade beads bracelet? TSK, it wasn't easy to see the real person. It would be great if he could tell his fortune or something. Forget it. Asking a master of this level to test his luck was no different from asking a main account with a full set of godly equipment to kill monsters in the novice village. Right at this moment, Xian Jing actually took the initiative to speak. Female benefactor, do you need something? Me. Since Xian Jing had taken the initiative to ask, Ningxi had to be thick-skinned. At most, she would be rejected. Master, you're really perceptive. It's a little. Well, I've been feeling a little uneasy recently. I wonder if you can give me some advice. Hearing this, Xian Jing's bright eyes sized her up a few times. Then, she whispered a few words to the little monk beside her. In a flash, the little monk brought a pen and paper. Then, he saw Xian Jing writing on the paper with a brush. After writing, Ningxi picked up the paper and looked at it. She was stunned. The master wasn't writing just now, but drawing a flower. What does this mean? Chapter 601. Ningxi originally wanted to ask clearly, but at this moment, a little monk ran over and reminded her that the Xianjing Dharma assembly was about to begin. Xianjing didn't seem to have any intention of explaining and directly bid farewell to her and Shi Shiqing before leaving. Ningxi could only turn to Shi Shiqing with a dumbfounded expression. Mr. Shi, you understand the master better. What do you think he meant by drawing a flower for me? Shi Shiqing picked up the piece of paper and looked at it carefully for a while, but he still had no clue. I can't guess the abbot's thoughts either. After Shi Shiqing finished speaking, he looked at her in surprise. There are a lot of people who ask the master similar questions every day. Every time, the master would at most say that everything has its own fate. I didn't expect that he would personally give you a bet this time. The corner of Ningxi's mouth twitched, and she muttered softly, hearing you say that, although I'm quite honored, but this flower, isn't it too mysterious? Forget it, I'll think about it slowly when I get back. When he left the hall, Shi Shiqing turned around and looked at the Buddha statue in the middle of the hall for a long time. Ningxi put her hand on his shoulder and turned him around, not allowing him to look anymore. Hey, stop looking, what's so good about being a monk? Chanting sutras all day, you can't drink or eat meat, and you can't get a wife. I'll treat you to a drink some other day and cook a meat feast for you. I guarantee that you won't want to become a monk anymore. Tell me, what's the difference between a life that can't flirt with girls and a salted fish? Ningxi racked her brains to talk about the benefits of not becoming a monk. Shi Shiqing finally stopped looking at the Buddha statue and looked at her instead. His clear eyes were empty, except for her reflection. After tossing and turning for half a day, Ningxi finally did not disappoint and brought Shi Shiqing back. At that time, Mother Shi was silently weeping in the pavilion. She no longer had any hope that her son would change his mind. Father Shi also had a worried look on his face. Although old man Shi did not say anything, the pressure was the greatest. After all, his grandson liked Buddhism, and it was also because of his subtle influence. Why is it taking so long? Old man Ning stuck his head out and looked at it uneasily for a long time. Old man Shi sighed. Old Ning, call little Shi back, we'll think of another way. What can you think of in such a short period of time? Mother, she looked at the time. There's still half an hour before Ching goes to cut her hair. With that, her tears fell even more fiercely. If my Ching really becomes a monk, I'll follow her and become a nun. Hearing that, Father, she panicked and said with a face full of panic, You. What nonsense are you saying? This is simply nonsense. How am I fooling around? My son has already become a monk. What's there for me to miss? Then you don't care about Shishien and me? The family was in a gloomy mood when they suddenly saw a person walking towards them from the end of the corridor. Ningxi was back. Just as Mrs. Shi was about to comfort Ningxi and tell her not to mind, she saw a familiar figure following closely behind Ningxi in the next second. It was her precious son. Mama Ning's expression changed to one of surprise. Ching. She stammered. Shi-Ching. Mrs. Shi, Grandpa Shi, and Old Man Ning were both surprised and happy to see Shi-Ching. However, he couldn't help but feel nervous. Could it be that he had come to meet them one last time before he lost his hair? Until Shi-Ching walked in front of them and called out one by one, Dad, Mom, Grandfather, Grandfather Ning. It was no longer this benefactor, that benefactor. Chapter 602. This meant that he had changed his mind and was not going to become a monk anymore. Mother Shi's eyes reddened. She could no longer hold it in and hugged her son as she burst into tears. Ching, you scared your mother to death. Father Shi also had a look of relief. Xiaoxi, thank you. Thank you. If it wasn't for Ning Shi, his wife and son would have gone to become monks. Shi girl. How did you persuade Shi-Ching? Old Master Shi's face was also full of excitement. That's right, Xiaoxi, Auntie really doesn't know how to thank you. Ning Shi naturally couldn't tell them how she had persuaded them, so she hurriedly waved her hand and said, Cough, Uncle, Auntie, Grandpa Shi, actually I didn't do anything. When I went, Mr. Shi had already been persuaded by you guys. I just picked up a ready-made credit. Child, you're too modest. Mother Shi looked at the girl in front of her. Her eyes were clear and clean, and her clothes were simple and elegant. The more she looked at her, the more she liked her. Moreover, her son couldn't be persuaded by anyone, but this girl moved the moment she went. She was even more certain that her son's feelings for this girl were not ordinary. If she could bring this couple together, then she wouldn't have to worry about her son thinking about becoming a monk anymore. Xiaoxi, come to our house for dinner tonight. No matter what, I have to thank you properly this time. Old Master Shi also nodded, that's for sure. Seeing the attitude of the Shi family, Old Master Ning naturally knew what they were thinking and was naturally happy to see it succeed. At the same time, in the black car outside the temple. Brother, I'm back. Don't worry, sister-in-law is mighty and domineering, she has already settled everything. And she escaped unscathed. Lu Jingli deliberately used a relaxed tone to report to his brother. However, who was Lu Tingxiao? When his bottomless eyes swept over, Lu Jingli shivered inexplicably. What's wrong, brother? He really had to hold on to not stutter. Lu Tingxiao narrowed his eyes, as if his gaze could penetrate the soul, and said faintly, escaped unscathed. Yeah. What's wrong? Lu Jingli had an innocent expression. Tell the truth. The aura around Lu Tingxiao suddenly sank. Lu Jingli blinked his peach blossom eyes and said with an incomparably sincere expression, Brother, I'm telling the truth. Sister-in-law did not agree to any of Shi-Ching's outrageous requests, nor did she tell the truth about last night. Isn't it just escaping unscathed? Hihi, how could he be courting death? Ningxi's method might look smart to outsiders, but to Lu Tingxiao, it was definitely the ninth heaven's thunder that could destroy a city. The most tragic thing was that he was too stunned to stop it in time. Just one was enough to kill him 100 times over. Don't make me repeat myself. The moment Lu Tingxiao's voice fell, the air pressure around them dropped to the extreme, as if a tornado had descended upon them. Initially, he didn't want to delve too deeply into it, but he knew Lu Jingli too well. The calmer he appeared, the more serious the matter was, and it wasn't a small matter. Lu Jingli had seen Lu Tingxiao in this state many years ago. That was when Lu Tingxiao was disciplining the family and interrogating the traitor. That aura had scared the traitor so much that he had wet his pants on the spot. Lu Jingli's little heart trembled as he cursed in his heart. Fuck you, I'm your biological brother, and you're using the same method you used to coerce prisoners to deal with me. Where was humanity? Chapter 603. Forget it. Since his sister-in-law appeared, he didn't have this thing anymore. Just as Lu Jingli was silently cursing, Lu Tingxiao's aura had already covered the sky and covered the earth. And it was only aimed at Lu Jingli and avoided Xiaobao, who was busy painting. Facing his brother's cold eyes, Lu Jingli's scalp was numb and his calves and belly were shaking more and more violently. Damn it. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. In fact, my sister-in-law didn't do anything. She just pushed Shi Shiqing down and flirted with him. Of course, Shi Shiqing couldn't take it anymore. His face was so red that it looked like blood was dripping from his face. Then my sister-in-law took the opportunity to provoke him, saying that his 6 senses were impure and that he didn't deserve to be a monk. Lu Jingli confessed quickly. If Demon King Lu really knew magic, then the windows would have been shattered, and not a single blade of grass would have grown within 100 miles. Lu Jingli was so scared that his heart almost stopped. He silently hugged Xiaobao, who was the only one outside the storm circle to seek shelter. Xiaobao was concentrating on painting and didn't hear what Lu Jingli said. Seeing his uncle suddenly hugging him, he frowned and wrote a line of words on the writing board, only for Aunt Xiaoxi. It meant, this baby belonged to Aunt Xiaoxi. You can't hug me casually. Lu Jingli looked at the line of words and was speechless. Ouch. Why is the whole world hurting me? As for Ning Shi, because Lu Tingxiao and the others were still waiting, she declined the Shi family's invitation to dinner. However, because of their kindness, she promised to go over next time when she had time. I'm back. It's all done. Let's go. As soon as Ning Shi opened the car door, Lu Jingli, who was threatened by his brother and despised by Xiaobao, immediately pounced on her with a howl. Sister-in-law, they bullied me. Ha ha, sister-in-law. It seems that if I don't beat you up, you'll never learn your lesson. Ning Shi cracked her knuckles gloomily. Lu Jingli was greatly shocked and his face was full of despair. In this ruthless world, I'll become a monk. Ning Shi ignored him. She took out the flower that Master Xian Jing had drawn for her and looked at it. Lu Jingli's attention was immediately attracted by the thing in Ning Shi's hand and he said vigilantly, Sister-in-law. Brother Shi, what is this? A flower. Did Tang Shiqing give it to you? What nonsense are you talking about? These words were written by Master Xian Jing. Ha! But it's clearly a flower. Lu Jingli showed that he had good eyesight. Ning Shi looked at the flower over and over several times, but couldn't find anything. She said, Alas, a master is a master. I don't know what it means at all. With that, his eyes lit up and he hurriedly leaned over to the driver's seat. Mr. Boss, you're so knowledgeable. You must know something. Can you help me take a look? The girl's head came up to his ear, and her warm breath lingered in his ear. The chill around Lu Tingxiao was slightly reduced. He took the paper handed over by Ning Shi and glanced at it. After a while, he frowned and asked, Why did the abbot write for you? Ning Shi scratched her head and said, I just asked him casually that I've been feeling uneasy recently. Could he give me some hints or something? Then he drew a flower for me. He didn't say anything. Well, he couldn't have praised me for my beauty, could he? The meaning of this flower was really too hard to guess. Lu Tingxiao couldn't think of what it meant at the moment. Chapter 604. At this moment, Lu Jingli poked his head over and said with a strange expression, Is it that hard to understand? Master Xian Jing's meaning is so obvious. Obvious? How is it obvious? Ning Shi was a little speechless. Sure enough, Lu Jingli's brain circuit was not the same as that of ordinary people. Lu Jingli blinked. Take a look for yourself. The question you asked was probably about good or bad luck or calamity. Master Xian Jing drew a peach blossom. Isn't this obviously reminding you that you will have a peach blossom calamity recently? Ning Shi, peach. Flower. Tribulation, Lu Tingxiao, Lu Jingli looked innocent. What did I say wrong? Ningxi's face darkened. What you said makes sense. She couldn't refute it. Moreover, the more she thought about it, the more it made sense. Recently, she really had signs of a love calamity. Not only Ningxi, but even Lu Tingxiao thought it made sense. Ningxi grabbed her hair bitterly. Damn it. No way. What should I do? The great master didn't tell me how to break it. Should I go back and ask? Do you still need to ask the great master? You could have just asked me. Of course, the solution is to find someone to marry. That way, there won't be any peach blossoms. Lu Jingli had a matter-of-fact expression on his face as he stared at his brother's cold profile and said meaningfully, "This is the legendary 100 flowers kill after my flower blooms." Ningxi's face darkened. Marriage? Damn it, isn't it impossible? Bah, Lu Jingli, I'm actually listening to your nonsense. Who said it has to be a romantic tribulation? This is obviously a peach blossom painting. If it's not a peach blossom calamity, then what is it? Ningxi glared at him. Can't it be luck with the opposite sex? Hee hee. Lu Jingli laughed dryly and muttered, "If it's your luck with women, then it's my brother's misfortune. It's a life and death tribulation." At this time, Ningxi's phone rang with a ding-dong sound, indicating that there was a new message. Ningxi was still wondering what the flower meant. She absent-mindedly picked up her phone and glanced at it. However, after a glance, his soul was destroyed. Little 1111, what's wrong with you? What did you see that made you so scared? Lu Jingli asked weakly. At this moment, Ningxi's face was really too frightening. Her little face was deathly pale, as if she had seen a ghost. Lu Tingxiao also looked over with a frown. Ningxi held her forehead, which was slightly dizzy from the stimulation. She wanted to kill Lu Jingli with her head. What a jinx. I'm afraid I'm really in for a romantic disaster. After a while, Ningxi regained her composure and turned to Lu Tingxiao. Boss, I have something urgent to deal with. I may not be back tonight. Can you take Xiao Bao with you tonight? When are you coming back? Lu Tingxiao asked. Ningxi was stunned. I'm not sure. If it's fast, it'll be tomorrow morning. If it's late, it might be the day after tomorrow. Anyway, I'll call you immediately when it's over. After saying that, she held Xiao Bao in her arms and hugged him tightly. Baby, I have to leave for a while. Listen to Papa. Lu Tingxiao looked at the girl and a cold light flashed in his eyes. I'll send you off. No need. I'll go by myself. Ningxi was obviously unwilling to say more. She hurriedly got out of the car and looked panicked that she had never seen before. Lu Tingxiao's eyes darkened as he watched Ningxi hurriedly take a taxi and leave. Chapter 605. What on earth did that message say? I've never seen her so afraid of anything. Is she in danger? Lu Jingli sighed. It's a pity that I didn't peep at her just now. As soon as he said that, Xiao Baozi pricked up his ears and wrote on the writing board, "Danger?" Lu Jingli rolled his eyes. Xiao Bao, did you see what was written in the message that Aunt Xiaoxi received just now? If you know it, you must tell Dad and second uncle, because it's really important. I'm afraid that your Aunt Xiaoxi will really be in danger. Xiao Bao looked at Lu Tingxiao with uncertainty. Lu Tingxiao nodded. This time Lu Jingli was not talking nonsense. Ningxi's expression was really strange when she left just now. Knowing that Aunt Xiaoxi might be in danger, Xiao Bao immediately buried his head and began to write. Lu Tingxiao and Lu Jingli both looked at him nervously. Xiao Bao soon completely restored the content of the message. See you on the roof tonight. Eldest brother, Lu Tingxiao and Lu Jingli changed their faces at the same time after reading the content on Xiao Bao's writing board. Shit. What the hell is eldest brother? He even asked her to meet him on the roof tonight. Shit, is it really a love affair or something? No, if so, Ningxi doesn't have to go there. Why is she in such a hurry? The more Lu Jingli thought about it, the more he felt something was wrong. As he was muttering suspiciously, he looked up and saw his brother's face reflected in the rearview mirror. It was terrifying to the extreme. For example, When he heard that Ningxi used honey trap on Qiqing, it was 1,000 times scarier. Brother. What's wrong? What's wrong? Lu Jingli was a little scared looking at Lu Tingxiao's expression. Lu Tingxiao didn't speak but made a phone call. Lu Jingli was shocked when he saw the number. Shit, why did his brother contact the genie guard? Was Ningxi really in danger? It seemed that there was only one possibility, that eldest brother's identity was not simple. Was it related to the person they had been investigating recently? Then Lu Tingxiao made a second call, and soon the housekeeper rushed over and took Xiaobao away. As soon as Xiaobao was caught up in the rhythm, Lu Tingxiao immediately stepped on the accelerator, and the car shot out like an arrow. Lu Jingli, who was sitting in the back, almost vomited. Brother, your biological brother is still in the car. At that time, Ningxi had already rushed back to Pearl River Imperial View as fast as she could. When he arrived, he didn't even go home. He took the elevator to the top floor, climbed up the ladder, pushed open the dusty skylight, and went up to the top floor. Tang Yi's message only gave a vague time. She didn't know what time it was tonight. In order to be safe, Ningxi rushed over early, then sat on the ground and began to rack her brains to think. The more she thought, the more uneasy she became. Eldest senior brother actually came to look for her. The eldest senior brother, who was in charge of the organization and rarely left, actually came to the country to look for her. This alone was enough to terrify Ningxi. What did eldest senior brother do when he came to the country last time? That's right, it seems like I'm here to perform an S-class mission. Then, what about this time? Why did he come all the way here? Ningxi's wait lasted from sunset until the lanterns were lit. The balcony was silent. There was no movement at all. Ningxi almost suspected that this was a prank. Unfortunately, if this message was sent by second senior brother, it might be a prank. But eldest senior brother, it was impossible. He would really come. Chapter 606. At the same time, in an open corner of Ningxi's building, a black Maybach was parked quietly. Not far away, a small group of armed forces was hidden, waiting for orders at any time. Night gradually fell, and the air seemed to have solidified. Everyone's heart tightened. In the dark, Cheng Feng's phone suddenly rang. He was carrying out an important mission and did not want to pick it up. However, when he saw the caller, he picked it up in the end. Hello, what's up? Brother Feng, why didn't you call me when you had a quest? The one who spoke was Xiao. Then, Xiongji's voice came from the other end of the phone, me too, me too. It was obvious that the two of them were together. Cheng Feng pinched the space between his eyebrows. This mission is related to Miss Ning. Are you sure you want to participate? The other end of the phone was silent for a long time. Yes. After a short moment, Xiao and Xiongji spoke in unison. Cheng Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. It's good that you guys can understand. However, it's a pity that due to your previous performance, it's impossible for the boss to let you guys participate in this kind of mission again. Then what should we do? Xiao's tone was tense. Damn it, protect the lady boss. Is there a mission more important than this? In the end, they were excluded. How was this any different from being banished to the cold palace? When Cheng Feng heard this, he sighed. Back then, he knew that this kid would definitely regret it one day. This, Brother Feng, help us plead with the boss, Xiongji said. Cheng Feng said helplessly, I don't have that ability, but I can give you a clear path. If you want to find someone to plead for you, then go find Miss Ning for help. Xiao hesitated. Will that work? She can't possibly help us, right? Xiongji is fine, especially me. He had really offended the lady boss last time. Miss Ning is actually a good person, her heart is very soft, you guys talk to her properly, she will agree. I still have things to do here, I can't say much, that's all. Cheng Feng was afraid that he would be distracted and affect tonight's mission, so he hurriedly hung up the phone. He didn't want to follow in the footsteps of Xiao and Xiongji. He didn't know what happened tonight to make Sir Boss so nervous. Meanwhile, in Lu Tingxiao's car, The screen in the middle was showing the situation on the top floor in real time. Because it was infrared monitoring, they could see at night. Except that the light was slightly dim, they could see that Ningxi was lying on the balcony with a tense expression. Her long hair was flying in the night wind, and the expression on her face was unprecedentedly fierce. For a moment, it gave people a strange feeling. Another 2 hours passed, and there was only half an hour left before midnight. The content of the message was tonight, so the person they were waiting for should be here soon, right? If the other party really did come, on the roof, Ningxi was on the verge of cursing. Fuck. This was simply asking for his life. Can't you give me a specific time? Don't you know how ungentlemanly it is to make a girl wait? Alright, to these guys, they had never treated her as a woman. The worst part was that even though eldest senior brother could contact her, she couldn't contact him. She couldn't even ask him about it. Eldest senior brother's number was even more mysterious than a certain animal. It was always one-way communication. He couldn't call him, and he couldn't receive any text messages. Chapter 607. Time ticked by and Ningxi had lost count of the number of times she had checked the time. She looked down and it was 23:59, 53, fuck. Could it be that he had been stood up? There were only 7 seconds left until tomorrow. Even if he sprinted all the way here, he would not make it in time. Eldest senior brother was the most punctual person. Tick-tock, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Just as the clock was about to hit 0000, there was a sudden rumbling sound above her head. At the same time, there was a whirlwind that swirled up the dust. Ningxi's first reaction was, fuck. I'm wearing a dress today. Ningxi stretched out her hand to block her dress that was fluttering in the wind. She squinted her eyes and looked up. A helicopter suddenly descended from the sky, and then landed directly on the opposite side about 10 steps away from her. Ningxi was speechless. He was indeed eldest senior brother. He was really punctual. Downstairs. Lu Jingli's eyes widened in the black Maybach. Fuck. I've been staring downstairs all this time and now he's coming from the sky. Lu Tingxiao calmly picked up the wireless walkie-talkie and gave an order for the people around him to get ready. On the roof. The helicopter's wings spun for a while before it gradually came to a stop. The air was silent again and the dust had settled. Ningxi also put down her dress. There was a bright light on the helicopter opposite her and it was so bright that she could barely open her eyes. She could only vaguely see a tall figure getting off the helicopter against the light and then walking towards her step by step. Although it was only 10 steps away, every step felt like it was crushing her heart, making her tremble with fear. She could not guess eldest senior brother's intentions at all. It was precisely because she did not know that she was afraid. She only needed to know one thing. As long as Tang Yi was personally involved, it definitely meant that the situation was extremely serious and troublesome. Ningxi's gaze became sharper and sharper. She tried her best to prepare for everything and even prepared for the worst. When she left the organization, she had actually sneaked away and the consequences of leaving the organization without permission. Finally, the man was only 5 steps away from her. Because she was close, Ningxi finally saw the man's face clearly. The man was wearing a pair of iconic gold-rimmed glasses, looking gentle and refined. However, if you were deceived by such an illusion and thought that he was a weak scholar, then the price would definitely be heavy. Ningxi was so scared that her legs were trembling just by looking at those glasses. This time it was really over. Eldest senior brother wouldn't be here to clean up the sect, right? She had been busy filming for the past year and hadn't had the chance to practice her skills properly. Previously, she had only been able to last 100 moves against her third senior sister, Feng Xiaoxiao. That wasn't right. Her martial arts skills were the worst in the sect. Even if she practiced, she wouldn't be able to match up to eldest senior brother's finger. The difference in martial strength was too great. 5 steps, 4 steps, 3 steps. Ningxi was already considering whether to escape immediately or kneel down and beg for mercy, which option was more likely to survive. Finally, while she was hesitating, Tang Yi was already standing in front of her. She had lost her chance to escape, and the only way left was to kneel down and beg for mercy. In front of her, Tang Yi's glasses reflected a white light under the lights. Little junior sister, long time no see. Chapter 608. It was the long-lost clear and melodious voice, like pearls falling on a jade plate. Ningxi felt as if she had heard the voice of hell. In the end, Ningxi took a deep breath and chose to face it. She couldn't calm down, so she armed herself with acting skills and put on a calm expression. It's been a long time. I wonder why eldest senior brother has come in person this time? Hearing Ningxi's question, Tang Yi seemed to have thought of something and his face darkened. Noticing the subtle change in Tang Yi's expression, Ningxi was more certain of her guess. After a brief silence, Tang Yi enunciated each word clearly, S-rank mission. Ningxi's face instantly turned pale. Sure enough, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my life today. If it was a year ago, life and death really didn't matter to her. Even if she was surrounded by beautiful women and died the next moment, she wouldn't have any regrets. But now, she had dreams, she had a career, she had friends, she had Xiaobao, and Lu Tingxiao. She didn't want to die. Especially when she thought of Xiaobao, who was still waiting for her to come home. A strong desire to live rose in her heart. Eldest senior brother, we're from the same sect. Are you really going to kill me? Ningxi tried to move him with emotion. Tang Yi raised his eyebrows imperceptibly, but soon returned to his usual coldness. He didn't speak but raised his hand. Ningxi's whole body tensed up. After Tang Yi raised his hand, two people behind him came down from the helicopter one after another. Ningxi's brows knitted tighter and tighter. What's going on? Did that beast overestimate her? She was just a good-for-nothing. Not only did he send eldest senior brother to deal with her, but he also sent helpers to deal with her. Ningxi's forehead was dripping with cold sweat. She already knew it was useless to talk about the past with Tang Yi. The next second, she already had a plan in mind. Even if the possibility of failure was very high at this distance, she had to at least try. While Tang Yi turned his head to look at the two people behind him, Ningxi's body moved quickly and she rushed towards the exit like a bolt of lightning. However, before she could even take 3 steps, she suddenly felt something tighten around her waist. It was actually a rope that had strangled her waist. Then, with a forceful pull, her entire body was pulled back the way she came. Moreover, her body spun a few rounds under the force of the rope, and she was tightly tied up. Eldest senior brother was getting better and better at tying people up. At the same time, downstairs, Lu Tingxiao was staring at the scene on the monitor. His finger was already pressed on the switch of the communicator, ready to give the order. Lu Jingli beside him also had a cold look on his face. This man. He came with bad intentions. Although he was wearing glasses and looked gentle, he was definitely not a good person. Ningxi stared at the other end of the rope in Tang Yi's hand, her face full of self-deprecation. Oh, eldest senior brother, you think too highly of me, right? It's just a small fry like me, yet you actually issued an S-rank mission and even asked you to do it yourself. Isn't that a waste of resources? One of the two people next to him was holding a large rectangular box in his hand, and the other was holding a small square box the size of a palm. Of the two people beside him, one was holding a large rectangular box, and the other was holding a small square box the size of a palm. Tang Yi straightened his sleeves, then opened the 2 boxes one by one, as if he was checking them. Chapter 609. As the light behind them was too bright, Ningxi couldn't see what was in the 2 boxes. Her mind was filled with thoughts of knives, spears, rods, poisons, white silk and so on. Finally, Tang Yi picked up the small box after examining it for a while. Then, he took out something from the big box and walked towards her. Although Ningxi wasn't good at fighting, she was still very good at escaping. When Tang Yi walked towards her, she was already untying the rope behind her back. Just as she was about to succeed, Ningxi suddenly froze. Because she saw clearly that what Tang Yi was holding in his arms wasn't a big knife, a spear, a rod or an axe. It was a big bouquet of fiery red roses. The roses were delicate and beautiful, as if they had just been plucked from the branches. Ningxi blinked her eyes, then blinked her eyes again, thinking that she was dazzled by the bright light. Could this be Grand Senior Brother's new weapon? Master once said that when one reached the highest level of martial arts, they wouldn't need any weapons. Even a willow branch, a leaf, or a petal could kill without leaving a trace. It's only been a year, and Grand Senior Brother's skills have already reached such a level. That's terrifying. Grand Senior Brother, since when did you reach the level where you can fly flowers and move leaves? At this moment, Ningxi's heart was filled with despair. She had completely given up on resisting. In the face of an absolute powerhouse, all skills were useless. At this moment, she could only wait for death. Finally, Tang Yi moved. He slowly bent down and lowered his body. Then, he knelt down on one knee. She looked at Tang Yi, who had suddenly knelt down in front of her. He was even holding a bouquet of red roses in his arms. It was a strange scene. Ningxi's face was densely packed with question marks. Grand Senior Brother. Is this a new technique that you've come up with? It's quite strange. Grand Senior Brother, calm down. Let's talk this out, alright? What do I have to do to make you spare my life? Master, second senior brother and third senior sister dote on me so much. If they find out that you killed me, they'll never let you off. Ningxi was already at a loss for words. Tang Yi glanced at her and opened the small box with his slender fingers as she continued to ramble on. Suddenly, a huge diamond ring appeared in the box. Under the reflection of the light, it almost blinded her eyes. Ningxi closed her eyes. Fuck. What kind of new weapon is this? Tang Yi, marry me. Ningxi, in this second, it was as if even the air had stopped flowing. Ningxi's inner world swayed and shattered because of the destructive impact. Her worldview was about to shatter. Of course, she was not alone. Downstairs, Lu Tingxiao had already pressed the button on the communicator. The next second, he suddenly saw the man on the screen kneeling on one knee in front of Ningxi, and then he could clearly see that he said 3 words, marry me. Lu Tingxiao, Lu Jingli couldn't calm down for a long time. His expression was lifeless. Ever since I met sister-in-law, I feel that my worldview is being refreshed and reshaped every day. It's so exciting. Boss, please instruct me. Boss. His subordinate's anxious voice came through the communicator. However, Lord Boss didn't know what was going on and didn't respond. Chapter 610. Ningxi looked at Tang Yi, who was kneeling on one knee in front of her. Eldest senior brother, did you go berserk during your cultivation? Every hair on her body and every cell in her body was in disbelief. However, the truth was right in front of her. Eldest senior brother was proposing to her. To her, this was even more terrifying than eldest senior brother wanting to kill her. Tang Yi acted as though he did not see Ningxi's horrified expression. He maintained his expressionless face. I'm willing to let you take my heart and everything I have. I only ask that you leave me a pair of eyes so that I can see you. There's nothing in me that you haven't conquered. If you take its life, you'll take its death with you. If I need to lose anything, I hope that you'll take me with you. I only ask that you leave me a pair of eyes so that I can see you. Ningxi. Something was wrong. This familiar melody, this familiar style. Was it because one was influenced by one's company? Eldest senior brother's style seemed to have been influenced by someone. A vague thought flashed across Ningxi's mind, but she could not grasp it. Eldest senior brother, may I ask, are you proposing to me? Tang Yi, yes. Ningxi, he then added, I'm replacing Satan. Ningxi. Fuck. She knows everything. Ningxi took a deep breath and said through gritted teeth, don't tell me that the so-called S-level task you mentioned is to help that guy come here and propose to me. Tang Yi, yes. Ningxi. Damn it. Where's my knife? Where's my green dragon crescent moon knife? I'm going to hack him to death. Tang Yi, your answer. She was almost scared to death. How dare he ask for her answer? Ningxi could not take it anymore. Eldest senior brother, are you sure you're proposing to me and not torturing me? Also, Who the hell told you that a proposal can be replaced by someone else? Your reply. Tang Yi still replied with the same 4 words, like a robot that completed its mission step by step. I refuse. At the same time, Ningxi's hands exerted force and finally broke free from the rope. Reason? Tang Yi asked. Ningxi had been holding back all night, and now she finally exploded. Fuck, you made me wait all night, scared me out of my wits, and you even tied me up, to propose? I've never seen such a unique proposal in my life. How dare you ask me for a reason? After saying that, Ningxi found that Tang Yi was holding a pen in his hand. After she finished speaking, he pressed a certain part of the pen. He even brought a recording pen. The corners of Ningxi's mouth twitched. She reached out and snatched the recording pen from Tang Yi's hand. She pressed the record button and shouted at the pen, "With your EQ, you've basically said goodbye to girls. You can be a single dog for the rest of your life, bastard." After yelling, he finally vented some of his anger. However, just as he finished yelling, he suddenly saw an even more terrifying scene. Tang Yi handed the bouquet and diamond ring in his hands to the 2 underlings. Then, he raised his hand and slowly took off the gold-rimmed glasses on his face. This time, Ningxi was really scared out of her wits. Eldest senior brother, what are you doing? Let's talk this out. Don't take off your glasses just because you have a disagreement. Chapter 611. Everyone who was familiar with Tang Yi knew that once Tang Yi took off his glasses and entered battle mode, it was as if he had become another person. An extremely dangerous existence. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call him a pervert. What's going on? Are you going to use force when the soft approach doesn't work? Eldest senior brother, listen to my advice. A melon forcibly picked won't be sweet. Ningxi hurriedly urged. Tang Yi was like a walking human-shaped weapon. After taking off his glasses, Tang Yi was like a sharp sword that was unsheathed from its scabbard. In an instant, his sharp edge was revealed. His dark eyes were filled with bloodlust and madness. Even the tone of his voice had changed. My dear junior sister, don't be nervous. We haven't seen each other for a year. Let's test your skills. No. I don't want it. Ningxi flatly refused, shaking her head like a rattle drum. Damn it, before one wave had subsided, another wave had arisen. Why did he want to pick a fight with her out of nowhere? Tang Yi obviously wouldn't allow her to refuse, so he attacked her without hesitation. Fuck me. You're serious. This was Tang Yi, not third sister Feng Xiaoxiao. It would be a miracle if she could last more than 10 moves against him. If she did not train for a year, she would probably only last 4 or 5 moves. Ningxi anxiously shouted, eldest senior brother, calm down. Calm down. Holy shit. What's going on? Why do you look like you haven't fought in 8 lifetimes? So thirsty. Did second senior brother not satisfy you? Hearing the words second senior brother, Tang Yi's aura instantly became even more frenzied, and he was like a wild beast that had been restrained for hundreds of years and had just been released from its cage. Ningxi finally sensed that something was wrong. Eldest senior brother, what's wrong? Damn. Eldest senior brother, stop. I can't take it anymore. He really couldn't take it anymore. I can at most exchange 5 moves with you. As soon as she finished speaking, Tang Yi's hand was already wrapped around her throat. If he exerted more strength, she would lose her life. At this moment, Tang Yi's condition was extremely abnormal. He was on the verge of losing control, and he almost lost control of his strength. However, at this moment, his sharp senses detected something. His gaze sharpened as he looked downstairs. Then, he quickly withdrew his hand and slowly put on his glasses under Ningxi's frightened gaze. Finally safe. Ningxi was so tired that she bent over and gasped for breath. Eldest senior brother, what's going on? Did something happen to second senior brother? He's missing, Tang Yi said. After putting on his glasses, the manic look in his eyes receded, and he became an emotionless poker face again. However, when he said those 3 words, there was a hint of gloominess. What? Gone missing? Ningxi was shocked. Her second senior apprentice brother's talent was extremely high. No matter what he learned, his speed was always very fast. On the other hand, eldest senior brother was the complete opposite. He belonged to the type that could make up for his incompetence with diligence. His training method was terrifyingly intense that ordinary people could not imagine. In the same sect, the only one whose strength was comparable to eldest senior brother was second senior brother. That was why eldest senior brother, who was a fighting maniac, would always look for Tang Yi to train with him. Furthermore, second senior brother, who was obviously talented, was always sloppy and never put in the effort to learn. Even when he didn't put in the effort to learn, he was still able to match the results of Tang Yi's hard work. Every time Tang Yi fought with second senior brother, the world would lose its color, and the sun and moon would lose their luster. If there had to be a definition of their relationship, it would probably be a love-hate relationship. If second senior brother was not here, then the other junior brothers and sisters would be dragged to fight with him. For example, today's situation. Chapter 612. Why would he disappear all of a sudden? Ningxi furrowed her brows. No wonder eldest senior brother was so eager to find her for a fight. Even if she was weak, there was no satisfaction in fighting him. It turned out that he hadn't had an opponent for a long time. But with second senior brother's personality, isn't it normal for him to disappear every few days? It's normal to not see him for half a month, right? Ningxi said after some thought. Back in the days, second senior brother was the closest to her in the organization. He was the one who taught her how to eat, drink, and have fun. It would be strange if he stopped having fun one day. From this point of view, she felt that her master really had great foresight. Back then, when he adopted second senior brother, the name he gave him was Tang Lang. Half a year, Tang Yi replied. He didn't look too good. What? Disappeared for half a year? That long? Ningxi was shocked. I think I've been wandering for too long this time. Is there no news at all? No. Tang Yi originally wanted to ask Ningxi if she was in contact with Tang Lang, but seeing her reaction, it was obvious that she wasn't. Did something happen? Ningxi muttered. She couldn't help but feel worried. After all, Tang Lang was too arrogant and deserved to be punished. His greatest hobby in life was to stir up trouble, and he had enemies all over the world. When he went out to take out the trash, he might run into an enemy. If he were to casually take a stroll and run into a dog, it might have been kicked by him. It's best if he dies out there, Tang Yi said coldly. Ningxi stole a glance at Tang Yi. His words weren't credible at all. The one who can't bear to see second senior brother die is you, eldest senior brother, not long ago, in the black car downstairs. Lu Tingxiao's expression didn't change at all. It was as though all his emotions were frozen in the depths of his icy eyes. Brother, are you okay? Lu Jingli asked uneasily. He seriously thought that his brother should be the one to find a master to read his fortune. Lu Tingxiao's face was shrouded in the white light of the surveillance screen in the car. Jingli, step aside. Why? I don't know, brother. You actually have a little secret with me. Lu Jingli's handsome eyebrows were tightly knitted, and he had an unhappy expression on his face. Lu Tingxiao glanced at his brother. Good boy. Lu Jingli was successfully appeased by his brother's words. He happily got out of the car. However, the moment he got out of the car, a trace of imperceptible worry flashed across his face. He uneasily looked back at his brother in the car. After Lu Jingli left, Lu Tingxiao took out his phone and dialed a number. The phone rang for a long time before it was slowly picked up. Hello Morshi Lu Tingxiao, do it now. The person on the other end of the phone was silent for a long time. Then, the person on the other end of the phone said in a pained tone, Sir boss, even according to our original schedule, we're already in a hurry, but now you want to take action immediately? You're making things very difficult for me. Recently, I've been abused by you to the point that my endocrine system is in disorder. Tang Yi isn't here, Lu Tingxiao said. The person on the other end of the phone was stunned again. Then he said with certainty, Tang Yi won't leave. Lu Tingxiao turned on the video call function and pointed the camera at the surveillance screen in the car. On the screen, Tang Yi was holding a large bouquet of roses and kneeling on one knee in front of Ningxi. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.